Hello and welcome to QI, the programme that's tough on boredom and tough on the causes of boredom. Let's meet this evening's magistrates of mirth. Clive Anderson, Phil Bailey, Mira Sial and Alan Davies. Now, the rules are simple, the questions are hard. The scoring is my business. Each of you is equipped with an electronic gavel. Mira goes... Clive goes... Bill goes... Alan goes... Oh, dear. Fingers and palms on buzzers, please. What is the longest animal in the world? Or which is the longest animal in the world, if you prefer? Alan.
The first thing that came to mind would be a really long snake, but I think that even the longest snake, it wouldn't be as long as a really, really long sea animal like a whale or something like that.
It's not the blue whale.
It's not the blue whale.
No, it was too obvious an answer, and I hoped you wouldn't rush right into it. Bill.
The Covent Garden domestic cat.
That long now?
Yeah. Yes, but when you stretch them out... Have you ever held a cat up under his arms? It's massive!
But a blue whale would be longer than that.
But in its class, the cat...
If you held a blue whale up, you'd have to stand on a tall building and swing it for hours.
It's a tapeworm inside a blue whale. That's got to be it. Sorry.
Brilliant thinking, but no. Yes.
Let's
forget the buzzers.
Let's forget the buzzers. Of the buzzers now. I would hazard a guess and say the Portuguese man of war.
Oh, now, do you know, I'm going to give you 5 points because there's so much in the right class of animal. It is a jellyfish.
A jellyfish?
Yeah.
With very, very long tendrils that stretch out many miles.
No, across, actually. Are any of you familiar... and down. I mean, they do both because they use them and they whip people with them. Are any of you familiar with a Sherlock Holmes story called The Lion's Mane? Do you remember it?
No.
It's about a man who's seen staggering from the sea with this extraordinary network of wheels, as if he'd been whipped or had a red-hot net put onto his back, and he gasps, and as he dies, he goes, "The mane! The lion's mane!" Just like that. That's how it's written.
Right.
Holmes was retired by this point, and he's keeping bees on the Sussex Downs. He discovers...
Against their will.
It is, in fact... They loved it. They loved being kept by Holmes. The Lord Chancellor under John Major was a man called Lord Mackay of Clash Farm.
Yes.
You remember him as a lawyer yourself.
Charming.
So he was a member of the Wee Frees, that rather particular sort of low church Scottish sect.
He was thrown out.
The Wee Frees.
He was thrown out, though.
He
went to a funeral of a Catholic.
He was soft on homosexuals.
No, he went to a funeral of a judge who happened to be a Catholic, and
that's right.
And so he wasn't allowed back in the Wee Free Church.
They don't like popery.
No.
Or any smelly objects.
No
popery. Anyway, he was, I won't say a mean man, but he was giving a tea party for some Scottish lawyers. This is bread and toast, and this tiny pot of honey. And one of the lawyers says, I see your lordship keeps a bee. Kind of amusing, not rude enough, obviously, for this audience. The answer is the lion's mane jellyfish. Its main body, the main body or bell of the lion's mane is only 8 feet across, but its tentacles are over 200 feet long, Alan.
So you'd be going, "Get off, you bastard!"
Really be able to
Come
hear
here and try that! Come back, mate!
How does it happen in the story, though? Had somebody scooped it out of the ocean and thrown it at him in this...
No, it had come up on the jet stream, as they sometimes do, as jellyfish do to Cornwall and to the south coast, because it isn't...
Came up on a jet
stream?
One of those
the
aircraft.
Gulf Stream, I'm so sorry. I was shopping for aircraft.
I'm the longest in the world. I'm under a private jet.
So sorry.
I need the extra leg room, obviously.
And
steering it from the back.
The exit's here.
Excellent. Very good. And the answer, in the case of the large man, is stinging. A sting that can occasionally be fatal.
Yeah. Almost.
Occasionally fatal.
Yes.
How many times is it got to be fatal to matter? You know?
It kills some people and not others.
Oh, I see. Yes.
Isn't it true that to neutralise a jelly sting, you have to urinate on it?
I believe so, yes, ammonia. The ammonia in the urine is supposed to be very good.
So they say.
Yeah.
So, well,
Yeah.
I think it's just an excuse to have
Another
fun.
wind-up. You know what you want to do with that?
Another
you
jet
want to wee on that.
Another jet stream, very good indeed. So, now, a whale, on the other hand, is only about 106 feet long. I say only, it is, of course, an enormous creature, a blue whale. But what do you think is the largest thing that a blue whale can swallow?
Another blue whale.
Surely this then would lead one to think you're leading us down a line there of a very small thing, because it's so big, and it'd be a very, very, very tiny thing. But I'd say something huge.
Kebab.
Yeah, a kebab.
Sideways.
Maybe is it a conceptual question? The blue whale, a very vain animal. Perhaps the largest thing it has to swallow is its pride.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. Or a very gullible animal will swallow
they're
anything.
vegetarian, though, aren't they? Blue whales?
No, they're not
Are they
vegetarian.
not?
No, it's
So they eat fish, but you know.
that's sort of, krill, in fact, is
And
the
they sieve it. They have
particular
a
name.
sieve system through their teeth.
They do sieve because the little krill are very, very small. In fact, it comes from the Dutch meaning, very small
It
things.
takes ages.
I didn't know you did a blue whale.
I was doing a blue whale
Krill.
sieving its krill.
Everything
Oh.
right, except
You know what? I've never seen that.
everything right except the hands. Very good.
I reckon they could probably get a ping pong ball down their neck.
Yes. Ping pong ball's
Egg,
right.
something like an egg.
Egg. You're on the right. You're on the right lines.
lobster.
Nothing bigger than a grapefruit.
Really?
They have tiny, tiny throats, and they can't expand them much. Well, they're the same size as their navels, about the size of a small side plate.
So they could be a supermodel. That's that kind of same diet, isn't it? Really?
Basically.
Except they're big fat.
Except that they do eat 3 tons
Yes,
of krill every day.
It's always good. They have the biggest brain in the world, don't they? The most enormous. But all they do with this huge brain is to lie in the water with their mouth open, sieving little bits of food.
Well,
so they're not really
they
exploiting
call
their
to each
brain.
other, covering 10,000 miles. Their voices can be heard. That's pretty impressive.
Well, I've never
with a
heard
mobile
of
phone,
a whale.
Have you listened?
But
It's
sure,
like
10,000 miles underwater.
Yes.
Yeah, but not 6 feet up to the surface, nothing.
There's a blue whale about a mile away going, all right, I'm only here.
And the whale song is
Shouting.
very indulgent, jazz.
Do you think?
Yeah.
Free form. I think we've been very mean on them.
Yeah.
You know, their
It's not jazz, it's
tongues.
blues, anyways.
Their tongues are heavier than a whole elephant. Just one blue whale tongue is heavier than a whole elephant. Their hearts are about the size of the average small family van. Or SUV. Yes, family van pickup
SUV.
thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
But when they have babies,
Yes. Now, there's an interesting thing, their genitalia. Give me the length of a blue whale's
A
penis.
Nissan Micra.
Give me the length of
Yes. Give it to me now.
To be honest, I don't think I can manage quite that much, Stephen.
This is disappoint a man. Well, a blue whale.
that
If a
long,
blue,
that long.
Yeah.
An arm's length.
oh, my dear fellow, it's 16 foot long. 16 foot long.
16
dear.
foot.
16
Flaccid?
foot stroke feet. Well, no, flaccid or non-flaccid, it doesn't actually, they don't get erections. I mean,
You wouldn't, would you?
No,
Go a bit painful.
out of sympathy for Mrs. Whale.
Yes.
Oh, the blood's in me cock.
You have to think of yourself, don't you, Alan, not of Mrs. Whale. It's Mrs. Whale, I think, that would suffer most.
Well, I'm sure Mrs. Whale's got an enormous vagina.
It's only big enough to take 16...
That's someone's living room.
Yeah.
The size
You'd have to
of
through your living room to get the car.
as big as a Dixon's.
What would you say a blue whale's testicle contained in terms of fluid ounces, or if you
I don't
prefer...
know, but I wouldn't
any
like to be
other-
in the way.
Not metric. Don't give me, yes. Right. Don't give me metric. Each testicle.
We're talking liquid
Yes,
measure.
liquid, yes,
So we're
it is
talking
a-
gallons.
yes.
Sort of 20 gallons.
Yeah, 20 gallons.
20 gallons.
Yeah.
Sorry to exaggerate. It's
Higher.
7 gallons.
7 gallons.
It's 21. It's 14 gallons both, of course.
Oh, right.
Yes, and if they're having an audience, a great deal more.
Yes.
Yeah, they're having a party.
Are they like a couple of medicine balls then, or?
The testicles only weigh 22 pounds each, actually, odd enough, which in human terms would be pretty pathetic, because we make ours like this, weighing like a broad bean, or an individual bean. One last question on aquatic animals here. What do you think you could teach an octopus?
But,
There's an octopus?
well, could I teach an octopus?
Well, yeah, what can...
I have seen an octopus.
Yes, good.
I went scuba diving.
I've seen one on a plate in a restaurant in Greece.
They use the ink to make risotto.
They do.
Do you know how octopuses mate?
Tell.
They mate
difficulty.
with their third right arm.
We all do that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they use their third right arm to transfer the sperm to the female, which is kind of handy because it leaves the other 7 free to hold the kebab and the remote control.
Is it right they've got a brain per tentacle, or am I making that up?
No, you're not making it up, Clive. It's a matter of some debate amongst students of the octopus.
Oh, I'm glad to join in then.
It doesn't have a sort of discrete, separate brain, but some people believe that it needs such extraordinary neural power in order to control the thousands of different suckers separately, which it can do, that the sort of intelligence is located somewhere. Not exactly a brain as we know it, but they are very bright. They can be made to recognise colours, but there's a particular trick they can be made to do, which is quite impressive.
And this is what we need to teach you.
Right.
Yeah, which it can be taught.
Play the drums.
Yes.
Play the drums.
You can... No, so good.
Assemble a drum kit really quickly.
It can unscrew. I can unscrew the lid off a bottle or some sort of container, yes. And it can take up to 10 seconds or an hour, depending on how tight the lid is. But the odd thing about it...
So it's like girls.
Yes.
Girls can't do that.
They loosen it first, as you well know.
The one thing that men can do now, because women can now see everything else apart from open jars.
Yes.
And once women work out how to do that, we're finished. Yeah. Now you've got octopuses to do it, you don't need...
We're doomed as a sex. The odd thing about them is they don't have very good memories. So they have to learn every day. So scientists can teach them, but they have to teach them each time how to do it. And they'll pick it up very quickly. But the next day, the same octopus will forget it.
They've got 3 hearts.
And they've got 3 hearts. I'll give you 5 points because that's quite interesting and true. Very good.
Because if you cut one of the tentacles off, it will still reach for food.
If you could keep it in the kitchen, take the lids off all your jars.
Now, next question. What begins with A, has 6 C's and no B's? Clive.
Is it the Welsh alphabet? I'm only guessing. You haven't mentioned the L's, which are there.
No L's mentioned. That would be the clincher.
No B's.
No B's as in...
No B's like that.
Or...
So...
Is it 6 C's as in the ocean?
6 C's. 6 C's. Starts with A.
It's America. There are no states in America beginning with B, and then there are 6 C's. There must be California, there are 2 Carolinas, Connecticut. I think there are 6. So I think I've come up with the right, though possibly also wrong answer. But I'm truthfully pleased with it. I don't care if I get any points or not.
No, you don't get points, but you certainly get the admiration of us all.
I'm not feeling admiration.
You were better at it, but on the other hand, let's turn our attention to the question.
Antarctica.
Brilliant, thank you very much. It is the right answer.
Oh, see,
Quite right.
Well, I think I'm right. I'm not accepting it.
but that's not strictly true, is it? Because, of course, you have the Antarctican ice bee.
If you did, then the question would be meaningless.
Yes.
I wouldn't put it beyond you to go now to Antarctica with a bee in a matchbox. Just so you could get a point. Bees and a honeybee. You worked out the thrust of the question.
Yes.
Bees as in buzz, 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 and seas as in oceans. It is bordered by the Ross Sea, the Davis Sea, the Weddell Sea, the Bellinghausen Sea, the Lazarev Sea, and the Amundsen Sea. But not one, as I say, not one little member of the 92,000 hymenopteral bees and wasps exists or has its being in Antarctica.
The what bees?
They form part of the group Hymenoptera.
Hymen
means wedding in Greek, and there was a myth about the bees officiating at the wedding of Zeus, which I told you about a few weeks ago, and I remember you being very bored by it then. I'm I'm disappointed that you haven't remembered.
The bees in charge of a wedding?
They catered for the wedding. That's
Well,
how they came
mainly
up with
honey-based,
They came up with honey. They invented honey specifically for it. Now, let's shake the snow off our slippers and address ourselves to the rather clivey subject of Andersons. According to the website amiannoying.com, Clive Anderson is 17% less annoying than the continent of Antarctica. Andersons are quite common. It's the 13th commonest surname in the English-speaking world. But are they quite interesting? Let's start with an easy one. Alan, who's the odd one out? Clive Anderson?
Yes.
Pamela Anderson? Gillian Anderson?
Clive Anderson.
Or Hans Christian Andersen?
You see, now Clive hasn't done any topless modelling.
Well, I'm sorry to stop you right there. When was this picture taken? Because I appear to have exactly the same shirt on there. Years ago, I had the same shirt.
Now, Hans Christian Andersen, the Danish writer of children's stories. Gillian Anderson, the actress, she's English. Pamela Anderson
Is she?
isn't. Yes.
The one who's in
American?
X-Files?
Yes, born in
is she?
London,
Really?
yeah.
Very good.
She was the only one whose wedding bees catered at.
You always get an odd person out. Anyone can be an odd person.
Well, I know. Rem Aku Tetigisti. You've hit the nail on the head.
Hans Christian is the odd one out because he's dead, and none of the rest of us are at the time of this recording.
And he spells Anderson with an E.
With an
instead of
E.
O.
He's supposed to like Arthur
Yeah.
Anderson, but he doesn't boast about that anymore.
No, quite.
Pamela is the only one who videoed her honeymoon, so she's the odd person out. I'm the odd one out because I'm here. And Gillian Anderson, bear with me on this, is the odd one out because she's the only one who isn't an odd one out.
Pamela Anderson's the odd one out.
Why? For why? Tell me.
Because she has sunglasses
Big
on.
tits. Go on, say it. You know you want to. Sorry, it's just me. I don't like big tits.
I was not going to say she's the odd one out because she's got
Her
cheeks.
career.
She's American.
Canadian. She's Canadian.
Hans Christian is the only one without a range of swimwear.
Yes, my range of swimmer hasn't really gone down terribly well. I cater, they're largely aimed at the blue whale market. I can't explain why for the moment.
Vegetarian? Are you vegetarian?
I'm not vegetarian, but
Yes, that. Yes, yes.
so clearly
They all are
Everyone else
vegetarian.
They're all
I think.
vegetarian. The other three are vegetarians, or
Right.
were, in the case of Anderson, obviously. Christian Hans.
Pamela Anderson never eats meat. Are you trying to say?
Now,
I'm just checking the facts here.
Bill, what was the unforgettable achievement of John Henry Anderson, the great wizard of the North?
John Henry Anderson,
Yeah.
known as the Great Wizard of the North. Why do you look at me as if you think I might know that?
No.
The Great Wizard of the North. Well, I suppose it could be wizardry, as in some sort of Ku Klux Klan grand
Masons.
wizardry sort of thing. But then they were grand wizards, weren't they? Rather than great wizards.
Yes.
I don't know.
Sub-wizard.
Is he Freemason?
No. To be honest, I don't know whether
Yes.
he's a Freemason. I don't know his cock length, I don't know his hair colour. I'm sorry.
So he hasn't met you.
Is he alive? Is he alive or dead? And all the vegetables
He's
on the
well
ground.
dead. We're talking 18th century.
He was a wizard of like a sporting wizard? No. Like a spin bowler? Or perhaps a very, very good putter?
He used to turn princes into frogs,
spells.
frogs into princes, that
Well,
kind of
that
wizard.
sort of thing in the way that normal people actually do.
conjurer.
A conjurer, that's
Yes.
right. And he did the first of a very famous trick. That's really it.
Find
The
lady.
Indian
Saw the
rope
lady
trick,
in
he
half?
must have been.
No.
The rabbit?
Yes. He's the first man to pull a rabbit out of Very well. Very impressive. He was the finest magician ever to come out of Scotland. He was legendary throughout the 19th century Europe. He was born in the 18th century, I believe. It was his inexhaustible bottle was extremely popular, which produced any drink requested by members of the audience, and the great gun trick in which he seemingly was able to catch a bullet fired from a musket. He advertised himself by leaving pats of butter around hotels, reading "Anderson is here." Little stamp that he had.
I've tried that as well,
Does
yes.
it work? No, you're providing both the announcement of your arrival and the lubricant in one happy go. But, nearer on the panel. What did Hans Christian Andersen have in common with Joseph Stalin, very specifically?
I know bits about Alan Christian Andersen. He was a weird fellow.
He was well weird.
A very weird fellow. He was an agoraphobic.
Correct. 2 points for knowing that.
And apparently the ugly
Rendering.
duckling is a great gay parable because he was gay.
He was well gay, yes. Yes, he was well gay.
Okay.
Well, a big butter user.
Alison is
Because nobody knows the original ending of the story when the duckling goes off to do musical theatre, but, you know,
Yes.
it's clearly a gay
And
parable.
he worked in ballet, as he was just slightly too clumsy and big to be in ballet, but he adored the ballet, which not in itself is a sign of being gay, though, let's face it, it is. He fell in love with the son of a friend who married, and his body was actually buried with this boy he fell in love with and this boy's wife, until the family decided it was a bit of a stain to have this threesome in the grave going on forever.
This grave is a bit crowded.
Yes,
Three people,
so that they were removed. But he was a sad figure. I mean, it says on my card he was a friend of Dickens. It's not quite true, actually, because Dickens had a
friend of Dickens. Is that a
friend
euphemism?
of Dickens? Yes, that's enough of that. Dickens got very tired of him. He stayed at Dickens' house and wouldn't go. He was just the guest.
I'm
that
exhausted,
wouldn't leave.
Hans. Will you leave? Take your butter with you.
That's where the phrase "hands off" comes from. And also what the Dickens. Well, no, it's a very peculiar thing he had, a very specific thing. They were both the offspring of a cobbler and a washerwoman.
The same one.
No, dear. Then they would be brothers, wouldn't they?
We're trying to get a link between them.
No. As Mira said, for a very, very well-designed 10 points, Anderson survived to become a tall, gangling, gay vegetarian writer of fairy tales who suffered from dyslexia, agoraphobia, and the fear of either being burned or buried alive. But some 128 years after his death, the discriminating voters and amiannoying.com still rate the tortured Hans as less annoying than his cuddly namesake Clive. Now, finally, through a magnificently magisterial morass of memory loss, as I remind you that general ignorance of the law or anything else is no excuse. Fingers on buzzers, please. What did Atlas carry on his shoulders? Yes.
The Earth, the globe.
Why do you always do this? No, in Greek myth, Atlas, who was one of the Titans, who rebelled against Zeus, the king of the gods, was punished by Zeus by being made to carry the sky, the heavens. But he is often shown holding the globe, most famously on the cover of a collection of maps by the Flemish cartographer Mercator. The volume became known as Mercator's Atlas, and the name stuck, and the image of holding up the Earth.
I've always seen pictures of him with the Earth.
On atlases. That's
They should really
So much
have
so that as a child I thought, where are his hands on the Earth? You could go and find his hands.
So, what provides more than 50% of the Earth's oxygen? And it's Alan in there first.
Trees.
Oh dear, every time, headlong.
Is it not?
Not trees.
They eat carbon dioxide.
They do provide oxygen, but not
then they-
50%.
I think it's the British Oxygen Company. I think they've cornered the market.
The oceans.
The plankton stuff.
Sort of plankton. It's
Plankton, yeah.
algae. Yes,
Algae,
exactly.
algae. Well, you
Which
know
is a kind of
personally.
plankton or algae, is absolutely right. Yes, these single-cell plants live across the surface of the Earth's oceans and generate far more oxygen than trees give us. Some scientists say as much as 90% of the Earth's oxygen.
I've got it in my pond. I'll get rid of it.
No.
Don't do that.
Think how many people you'll kill by doing that. You might just as well go around with a pillow and clamp them to old ladies' faces. You bastard. Unbelievable. Mature trees, by comparison, actually use more oxygen than they produce. Where is the driest place on Earth? Where? Yes.
The Sahara Desert.
Minus 20 points for the Sahara Desert. Bless you, Alan. No. Yes.
It's a couple of counties in North Wales. Especially on a Sunday, you can't get a
You
thing.
cannot get a drink.
They're very
Australia.
No, not Australia. You didn't say the Atacama Desert, where it hasn't rained in Chile in the Atacama Desert for 400 years, but there is a place drier than that.
The moon!
No, on Earth.
You're going to be right one day when that moon comes crashing down. You're going to be vindicated. I was right all along.
Moon, that's dry.
It's so dry.
What's dry?
It's called the Dry Valleys region.
The
and
Dorito.
The dry
the
valley.
Dry Valleys region, and the continent has come up in
America.
discussion.
Australia.
Pringle.
Even more
Antarctica.
Antarctica, thank you very much indeed. Yes, isn't that surprising?
That is.
That
Well, I'd like to give you 10 marks for that, because I think that's true.
Thank you, and it is quite interesting. Yes.
I think it shoots you into a lead.
How
Finally.
can that be dry? Because that's snow there, and snow's just
Snow is wet,
frozen.
And I will tell you, the fact is the average annual rainfall is less than 2 inches, about the same as the Sahara, but it contains coastal valleys known as the dry valleys in Antarctica that are free from ice and snow, which haven't seen rain for 2 million years. So there's a long way clear of its closest contender, the Atacama, parts of which haven't recorded rain for a mere 400 years. The Sahara is lush by comparison, Alan. Lush!
2 million
Lush! It's often shouted at you. You shout it again.
Has there been one of those little sort of rain-catching things there for 2 million years?
Absolutely, yeah. No.
And Michael Fish going checking it every couple of millennia.
Nothing.
They have ways of putting little cores in the earth, don't they, to check. It gets 250 times as much rain as the Atacama, actually, the Sahara. As well as the driest, Antarctica is, of course, not only the coldest place on Earth, it also lays claim to being both the wettest and the windiest too. 70% of the world's water is found there in the form of ice, and its wind speeds are the fastest ever recorded on Earth, about 200 miles per hour. Now, how long, team? How long is a day? In hours. Yes.
Oh, no. Don't do it, Alan.
Slightly
There's no bees in a day.
less or more than 24 hours.
Correct. It is absolutely spot on. 15 points. The day, as in a single rotation of the Earth about its axis, is never exactly 24 hours long. It varies slightly every day. Astonishingly, it can be as much as a whole 50 seconds longer, or, as you rightly and eruditely said, shorter, depending on the season. Even averaged across a year, a day is still not quite 24 hours, as measured on an atomic clock.
The moon again, you see, the moon is the gravitational pull of the moon, which alters the Earth's rotational axis. So what happens is that time is added on and goes out of sync with the atomic clock. So the International Earth Rotation Service has to actually dictate when seconds are added to the time.
There is indeed a leap second. You get
The
a leap
leap
second.
second,
In fact, you're right.
yes.
It's called a
That's
leap
actually-
second.
that's
Quite right.
actually
I'll give you 5 points
that's quite
for
interesting.
actually knowing what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Very good
thank you,
indeed.
yeah.
Very good indeed. Let's have a look, if we may, now at the ODME
haven't got any
scores.
points.
Shush your mouth at once, will you, please? Right. All right. Let's start, sadly, at the bottom. With minus 20, it's Alan Davies. In third place, with 10 points, Bill Bailey. In second place, with 19 points, it's Mira Sial. So this time I have no points. Clive Anderson is the winner with 26 QI points. That's it from QI for this week, and thank you very much indeed to Mira, Clive, Bill and Alan. An evening when we've discovered that deserts can be made of ice and that Andersons are by no means always annoying. I ask you to give your verdict on this thought of Rita Mae Brown's: if the world were a logical place, then men would ride side saddle. I don't know what that means either. Good night. Well, a very good evening to you, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to QI, the BBC's answer to Pop Idol, otherwise known as Bone Idol. To educate, inform and entertain, these are my intentions, and paving the road to hell with them tonight are Rich Hall, Clive Anderson, Bill Jupiters and Alan Davies. The four panellists of the apocalypse. May the Lord Wreath have mercy on your souls. Let's have a round on the buzzers and bells. Rich, how do you sound? And Clive goes...
Hey, wait a minute.
And Phil goes... And Alan goes... Excellent. Right, gentlemen, bombs away. Alan, have you heard about the Mexican kamikaze squadron?
kamikazes, like that.
That's right, only Mexican. And
I care not for myself, only my country.
very good indeed. Very good indeed.
For the emperor.
Andre.
I just imagine a bloke in a big hat riding a donkey into the Alamo.
They eat so many refried beans, they fart themselves to death. And they explode in front of the enemy.
Well, it's an oddly interesting thought, because kamikaze is the
Kamikaze
Japanese
is
for
a
divine
Japanese
wind.
word. Divine wind.
Yes, that's what it means, oddly enough. It is a Japanese word.
God's guff.
Yeah. But these little Mexican critters.
They're not people.
Exactly, not people. Were deployed by the US Army in the Second World War against the Japanese.
They're not like the dolphins they deployed in the war against Iraq.
No, they're not.
They let them out.
What they call
they pissed
the
off.
Mark 8 MMS Marine Mammal System.
What are the odds that the Iraqi Navy will be leaning out from a boat with a flaming hoop like that?
But a critter will be some sort of a desert fox.
No, well, very close, actually.
It's got to be an insect, hasn't it?
It's between an insect and a fox. You
Between an insect
might say. You might
in
say.
size, or
it's kind of, in fact, it is more fox-like than insect-like, but it flies. It's quite fox-like.
A bat.
A bat is the answer.
a Mexican bat.
A Mexican bat.
Oh!
You're not going to like this. It's
How do you
horrible.
know that's Mexican without sombrero?
Well, it's actually... it's the breed of the bat. It's a Mexican
I
free-tailed
actually
bat.
know the answer.
Do
to
you?
this.
Give it to us, Phil.
It's the American Navy, in their wisdom, because they saw these bats would fly up under the eaves
Yes.
and nest, and they thought, well, if they see out at sea a Japanese aircraft carrier or the hangars of the airplanes, they'll nest.
Oh, yeah.
And they filled them with explosives, right?
Yeah?
Yeah. But what would happen is where they were sewed up, the bats would get, what's that? And they'd start nibbling at themselves and exploding in an untoward fashion.
You're very close, Phil. It's not actually the Navy, and it's not boats. It's actually...
not?
It's worse.
I'm very close in that I'm nowhere near at all.
In aeroplanes, hundreds of these bats with little waistcoats. They went there with napalm in them and a detonator. And the idea was to drop them over Japanese towns round about dawn, so that as the light came, as all bats will, to escape the light, they would go into, as you say, the eaves and the rafters of the houses.
Yes.
And then at a particular time would detonate, causing these whole towns to burn, because most Japanese towns were made of wood and paper.
Mm-hmm. You've got to set the napalm off, so they have to follow them out with somebody.
Well, there's some sort of ignition device incorporated.
What do they say for
A
that?
little book of matches.
There is a poetic justice, however. Sorry, as a friend of our fairy creatures, you will be pleased to know that poetic justice prevailed, and that before they ever used these bats against the Japanese, they were testing, and the wind changed, and the bats had been dropped on a target little wooden city in the desert, were blown back to the headquarters of the American Army.
I don't find it poetic.
Do you not find it poetic?
I'm American. As I understand it, the kamikaze pilots, they only gave them enough fuel to go one way, right?
Yes.
They do that with all planes, though.
Technically, all airplanes are kamikaze planes. Unless you buy a return ticket. This is why I think that planes should run on AA batteries. You want to go to London, New York, all right, you have to buy 200 AA batteries. But you only bring enough batteries to get you there. There's no wastage
always
whatsoever.
get them at the airport.
Yeah.
That's true.
And then if you run out over the ocean, somebody's got a Walkman or something, you could get some more batteries.
But what if under the plane, the bit of ribbon that you pull the batteries out with hasn't... Where's that gone? And
It's
so
snagged.
you have to get the end of a biro and... You're hanging underneath a 747...
35,000 feet,
trying to dig out 32 AA batteries with a biro.
Well, none of this is as mad as a bat with a
You're
napalm
right.
waistcoat.
But it's such a step, because 1 minute they're trying to get little bats with little napalm to blow up, and then, OK, that didn't work. An atomic bomb then will blow up 2 cities, and that's
I'm glad you said that, because that brings me to my next question, which I'm going to address to Rich. Which comedian went and dropped an atomic bomb on Japan?
That would mean basically which comedian bombed in Japan. That would have been me.
Did you bomb in Japan?
I bombed so horribly in Japan that I...
In front of an English-speaking audience?
No, Japanese-speaking audience. I think I put my finger on what went wrong. That had a lot to do with it.
No, a comedian, member of, what you might call a troupe of comedians.
One of the Stooges.
No, better known than this.
Abbott and Costello.
Why, you knucklehead? You dropped that atomic bomb on Japan. What do you want to do that for? Why, you're a...
They'd never have won the war if those blokes had had a plane.
Oliver Hardy.
No. This man didn't drop the bomb. He contributed materially to the technology behind the dropping of the bomb, very specifically behind the dropping of the bomb.
Well, he invented... Everyone else was working on the nuclear explosion.
Yeah.
He invented little doors went...
There was a particular clamp. There's a particular clamp that held the bomb to Enola Gay, to the aeroplane.
The Bob Hope.
the crazy guy. Crazy guy.
The best known of them all, the Marx Brothers.
Groucho
Bombo.
Harpo and the other
Zeppelino.
one. That one there.
And the one with the ring round him, what's his name?
Oh.
No. You've got, reading from left to right, Harpo and Groucho, and then on the right-hand side there's Chico.
Zeppo.
Zeppo is the right answer.
bomb door
Zeppo
designer.
Marx. And he joined after Gummo, also known as Huo, left the stage act, and he was in 5 of the films, the last one being Duck Soup, and he left to become an agent and to set up a company that specialised in engineering and design.
Called Blammo.
Called it should have been called Blammo. Yeah. And he came up with the clamp that held the bomb, as well as a wristwatch. He came up with it that detected your pulse and gave an alarm when you were having a heart attack. And I mean, Groucho said he was a lousy actor and couldn't wait to get out of the Marx Brothers. But he also added, and everyone seems to be in agreement, that he was far and away off screen the funniest and the wittiest of the Marx Brothers.
Harpo could actually talk in real life.
No. Oh, no, you've shattered all.
I read his autobiography.
No.
He spent the first 15 years of his life nicking stuff, and he's really proud of it.
They all did. They were gangsters in New York, big hoodlums.
The Three Stooges are flying planes, and they're the gangs of New York.
The gangs in New York. He's got the stove.
We're going to kill you if you don't give me the money.
And he had a long career as an after-dinner speaker later on, Harpo, because he could just stand up and say, unaccustomed as I am.
Hey!
And everyone followed.
A lot of the early 20th century gangs in New York were Jewish. Obviously, Dutch Schultz, people like that. And right up to Meyer Lansky and Bugsy Siegel.
I think that a lot of the Scorsese oeuvre would be a lot nicer if people had horns and, you know, didn't had a funny hat. Yeah. Hey, Johnny, what's your gonna go do? You think I'm funny how? I'm going to play this harp over here. I amuse you.
Now, Phil, one for you, I think. What goes woof woof boom?
Suicide Corgi. The next Norwegian entry for the Eurovision Song Contest. My heart goes woof woof boom.
Terrierist.
Excellent. Joy upon joy. Very, very good. You must have some points for that. Excellent. No, you've kind of said, well, we know how grotesque the Americans could be, but sending bats into combat. And now the Russian flag, as you see waving behind you, the Russians could be just...
Dog with a bomb in it?
Dogs with bombs tied to them is what we're looking for.
Oh.
I know. It's
Man.
what man is capable of, isn't it? Oh. It's too grotesque.
And does he know?
The story is horrible. They trained them by making them very, very
Throw a
hungry.
stick at a tank and he just goes.
Well, no, do you know...
Just throw a bomb at the tank, for God's sake. Instead of making the dog go
Because
over.
they're armour-plated, and the point is they would keep the dogs very, very hungry, and then put food under a tank, which is the vulnerable part, which you can't get a bomb at easily. And,
Why don't you just put a bomb there while you're there putting the food down? Why do you put a bomb there? This is the right way.
No, they're training them.
Oh, with the training.
Yes,
Sorry.
so they become used to looking under tanks for food.
Whose job was it to change gear on that dog?
That is the
That's
trigger.
the trigger for the bomb.
When he gets under the tank.
This is just...
I bet you all eat sheep, though, don't you, on a Sunday?
Don't worry, that one didn't blow up. He lives on a farm now. He lives on a farm now.
His back's broken. But...
I I have to tell you that there was again poetic justice. The dogs just turned round in the battle and saw the tanks, which are Russian-shaped, which they recognised as having food under them, and so they went and blew up their own tanks. So the Russians started to shoot all the dogs.
They didn't shoot that one. They didn't shoot that one. He lives on a farm. They really love him. They struck him along.
Anyway, on to our next picture question. Why is this picture a double first?
Are they going to use the penguin to blow up the Scotsman?
It's a brilliant one.
First time the pipes are played in the Antarctica.
Yes, it's probably the first time a penguin was ever subjected to any kind of music.
Penguin, 2 seconds later, went like that.
This is the first ever Edinburgh Festival.
Would that it were. Now, did you know...
Would that it were, Stephen?
Robert
Would that it
Robinson.
were?
Would that it were? Oh, shush and titties.
This one for mother and oldest son.
Did you know that 50% of pipers, I don't mean newspipers, I mean bagpipers, 50% of pipers suffer from repetitive strain injury and also are hard of hearing.
Well, that is poetic justice.
That's exactly. Very good. Excellent. Oh, how neat. No, it's the first postcard ever to be sent from Antarctica.
Obviously, you don't bring a lot of stuff to Antarctica. This guy had to drag his bag. What if they hit a crevasse? Too much weight, and it turned out it was just because he brought a...
You never know, it might have saved his life. It might have just caught in the crack and he would swing from it. That did come out oddly, but you know what I mean. Now, what is the common name of the species Ursus arctos? Ursus arctos.
What is the polar bear, is it?
Polar bear, do you say?
Yes, that's an
It was indeed a bear pit,
Yes.
a bear trap. No. The common name is... two common names. If you're American, there's one name. If you're European, another.
What's Ursus
Grizzly?
mean?
Grizzly. Ursus is the Latin for bear,
Yeah, right.
and Arctos is the Greek for bear.
Oh, so it's a bear bear.
It's a bear, yeah.
What's a hare bear in Latin?
We shall have to
They
find
were
out.
great, weren't they, the hare bear? You can join in at some level, I find.
Exactly.
There's always a way in. There's a grizzly.
There's a grizzly bear, yes. Ursus arctos, or the brown bear. Point is that the Arctic itself, the Arctic and therefore, of course, the Antarctic, is named after the bear, not the other way around. It was the region of the bear, where you see Ursa Major, the great bear, the constellation in the sky, is always over the north.
So it's the Arctic's named after the bear.
Yeah.
So the Antarctic is named after the ant and the bear.
Ant
Why
and
would that
Bear.
be?
The Adventures of Ant and
They're
Bear.
like ant and deck.
Ant and Deck, exactly.
Only easier to tell apart, obviously.
It's easy to tolerate.
I love
They
them.
won't come on the show now, you've said that.
Oh, bother. Bother. How am I going to live with myself?
No, they're good. Right, to the letter.
Terrific.
Anthony and December, you should
They
put
could be
them as the...
walking up down under here as we speak. They're not, as in fact.
Ant
Nor-
is always on the left.
Yes.
Oh, is that how you can tell?
Always on the
Thank you. So reading from left to right, they're in alphabetical order. Very
Ant
good.
and deck. Ant and deck.
Easy.
Excellent.
And it's weird, even when you go around them and go from behind, they still how it works.
Whoa.
You're always following you around the room. It's like the moon going with you up the M1.
That's amazing.
Ant and deck always.
No, the polar bear is actually Ursus maritimus, as if you cared. How do polar bears disguise themselves?
They stand in front of anything white.
That's probably the right answer, I suspect. Yeah.
Do they dress up in something?
No, there is apparently a misconception that they cover their nose with their left paw.
Yes.
In a sort of ostrich burying its head in the sand sort of way, thinking that it disguises themselves. Like that, like our model, our demonstrator is showing us now.
Where's Alan? Where's Alan
Where's
gone?
Alan gone? Where's he gone?
You sure they're not just checking whether they've got bad breath? Because,
I don't understand if you're a 12-foot, 800-pound bear, why you have to disguise yourself at all.
Well, it's spot on. Who is going to bear tax? Right.
No bears here.
Or they stand in like that and they put 3 bits of coal there and a carrot in them.
Delicious. Now, well, there we are. This brings us neatly to our general ignorance round, in which we ask Alan, is this a rhetorical question?
No.
Quite right. So, fingers on the buzzers.
What's the point of rhetorical questions?
So, fingers on the buzzers. How many states are there in the United States of America? Alan.
50.
Oh dear. Dear, oh dear. It's 46, technically.
Yeah.
Oh, because 4 of them are not states. Well, there they are.
Ah.
That's Kentucky, Virginia, Pennsylvania, and Massachusetts.
They're Commonwealth. One's a
They're
Commonwealth.
Commonwealths,
Yeah.
exactly. All 4 of them are actually Commonwealths rather than states. What that constitutionally means, is their governance any different from the other? Do they have governors and they have the same sort of way of conducting their business? And so many straight lines. Isn't God odd? You know? What are the odds against that?
They've all got straight lines
Right.
apart from one. There's only one state in the United States that hasn't got a straight line in it.
Oh, that's a good question. I should imagine that would be Hawaii.
It is. Well done. I knew.
Good.
No.
No, no. Well, there you are. No, just a guess. Anyway, gosh, how interesting. Now, staying with America, in the whole of the Second World War, only 6 Americans were killed by enemy action on US soil.
Right.
All of them at a church picnic, right? The cause of death was a Japanese fugo. My question is, what is a fugo?
He's the 7th Mark's brother.
We were hoping you might say it was a poisonous fish, because there is a poisonous fish called a fugu, but it's not that. No, a fugo is a paper balloon.
There were atomic bombs in one direction, and okay, let loose the paper balloons then.
They sent thousands of them over the Pacific
With a bomb hanging off it.
with bombs on them.
Yeah.
But the odds against them landing on a city in the mainland United States are drastically against, because most of it's kind of wasteland. It's farmland to the west and desert to the... Whoops, hello.
It's not wasteland.
Well, no. All right, okay, but the chances are that if you send a random balloon into mainland United States, the chances are more likely it will hit something which is not going to kill people.
It's a clever weapon, though, isn't it? Presumably because
big
radar wouldn't detect it, because only the little bits of metal in the bomb would be even...
Yes.
But the paper wouldn't show up on radar.
No, absolutely. It was made of a paper called washi, which is from Mulberry.
Washi.
Washi, or wahi if you prefer.
Balloon!
Very good. Absolutely. Fugo.
Balloon!
Yeah, fugo, it's small. Yep.
No good at...
But they did rather cleverly know about the jet stream, which no one else in the world knew about, which allowed it to travel hundreds of miles an hour. But actually, they were made by schoolgirls who didn't know what they were making. They pasted.
Birmingham is a wasteland.
That's Alabama, I believe.
Yes,
Is that right?
Birmingham, Alabama.
Birmingham, Alabama, yeah.
That's a wasteland. They should team up with each other.
They should. Anyway, there's fugo bombs, but fugu, which you neatly avoided the trap of
It's blowfish.
Not
It's
that pufferfish thing.
It's the big
there's a
one.
bit in the middle that...
Oh, yeah. Is it about 6 people a year die in Japan?
It's actually a bit more than that. Between 30 and 100 suffer from the poisoning, and half of those die, so it's sort of anything between 15 and 50.
800 Americans die in a McDonald's every year.
Which one? Best to avoid that one.
The blowfish McMuffin.
But you're right, this is a fish which has inner parts, organs, which are deadly poison.
They just love the daring of it.
Well, that's what I thought, Alan, but actually it turns out that, in fact, there are traces of the poison always left, and if they're small enough...
Get you high.
You're quite right. It's tetrodotoxin, which is very, very poisonous, and you have to be specially trained in the art of filleting this particular fish. And in all the restaurants in Japan where you can eat it, have little lanterns hanging outside made of the skin of this fish with a little symbol to show that it's a trained... Part of the training is you have to eat the fish that you've just caught.
Have you had
No,
the fugu?
I've never been to Japan.
You're so tall, you'd be like Godzilla. They'd be, ah! fly! Give on frail!
Meet the fly! Meet the fly!
You'd be rampaging through downtown Tokyo. Ma! Go to the museum!
Why is it that it's always a 50-50 ball, isn't it? Whether it's an R or an L, and they always get it wrong.
I refuse to generalise about a race of people.
Oh, right, okay, fair enough.
I had Mike Myers do an American name, Rory Templeton, and he called him Rory Templeton.
If you want the Japanese to sort of virtually commit suicide, just ask them to say orange tip fritillary. I want to
Oh, you miss a Friday. The interview is over. You're Bill Bridge now.
So much for the Geneva Convention. Oh yes, so they're all absolutely correct. Yes, whatever the question was. Fugus, that's right. Yeah, fugus and fugos. Right. So, when are penguins found near the magnetic North Pole?
Well,
Yeah.
when they're wearing the suit of armour.
They're going to be soon because the magnetic north and south is going to switch any minute now.
Oh, give
And
them
they are going to be-
5 points. Absolutely spot on. The trap was to say, well, of course, penguins only live near the South Pole, so they'll never be near the North Pole. But the fact is, the North and the South flip in magnetic.
I think penguins
poles.
might be my favourite animal.
They are wonderful. Aren't they?
I like the one on the bottom left.
It looks like security.
It does. Yes, the actual root of the question, though penguins are, in so many ways, I suppose, more interesting, was that the North Pole becomes the South Pole and vice versa every million or so years.
Really?
Yeah.
So any minute now, everyone's fridge magnets are just going to fall on the floor. Loads of people start believing in bloody God again, won't
No,
they?
that's not how fridge magnets work. What will happen is compasses will point to the south rather than the north.
Oh, that'd be great for orienteering, wouldn't it?
I think people get used to it quite quickly, though.
No, they won't.
I think they will.
North, not south. I don't live in South London. I don't care what you say.
I'm with you there. Oh, dear.
Do we know why it happens? What's
No,
what's
I
going
don't think
on?
we do. It's a very mysterious process.
Just somebody
Very,
flicks
but
a
if the
switch,
Earth were not magnetic, there would be no life on it. At least certainly no life like us, because yeah, the magnetism deflects the solar rays and the.
I want you to imagine that the penguin is a malicious and dangerous conqueror of peoples. And now look at that picture.
I think they don't have many predators. Obviously, in the Antarctic they don't.
Polar bears eat them.
They don't live in the same continent.
Do they?
No.
They never
Polar
met.
bears in the north.
Polar bear lives in the north and the penguins in the south.
Yes.
They've never seen one another.
No, except
in
in
my
zoos.
mind, it's like lions and tigers.
Hence
In my
the
head,
joke, why
they're all hanging out together
But
and
lions
they've
and
never
tigers
met.
don't either. Yes, exactly. Lions, Africa, tigers, Asia.
Imagine if it was like that with men and women. Here's a thought, right? Do you think it would be better if it was harder to conceive but easier to give birth?
If I was a woman, I would certainly think that. I should imagine.
I mean, who cooked that up?
It's pretty mean, isn't
It's
it?
all backwards, isn't it?
Yeah. You're right.
Mind you, you wouldn't want gasping agony for 36 hours to conceive.
That's usually what it sounds like. Let's move on then. What is wrong with this picture? Yes.
No Starship Enterprise.
It should be the other way up.
Yeah, absolutely right. Have some points. Quite right. It's upside down, according to our, usual convention of putting north at the top and south at the bottom. It's also.
Oh, so in 200,000 years' time, this is going to be completely wrong, isn't it?
Yes, it might well be. But at the moment, that's its North Pole at the top and that's its South Pole at the
What I
bottom.
meant was it should be vertical.
Oh, very honest you are, Davies. You can take those points off yourself. And lastly, on poles, how are Boy Scouts connected to poles? Don't look at me like that.
As part of the uniform, they used to have a hat and a pole and a neckerchief and a special pole which was used for erecting their tents, for example.
Something to do with Poland.
It is to do with Poland. Name things that are particular about Boy Scouts.
Dib, 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 dob, dob, dob.
That's one.
That's
salute.
Polish.
The salute.
It's
well, you've got
Polish.
there. It's very, very close to the Polish salute. Let's have a look at a Polish salute and a Boy Scout salute together, shall we? There you are, on your screens now.
Which one's the Po?
Oh, let me think.
Oh, what a weedy, nerdy scout.
It's the Milky Bar Kid, I think, isn't it?
We need hard scouts.
I love the Boy Scouts. We went to Nam.
It's actually said to be an American invention, the Boy Scout movement. It's more than really British, although it's said to be made in Powell by many. There was a man called Seaton who founded a movement called the Woodcraft Indians.
Did you go in a helicopter gunship?
He had a little waistcoat with the palm strapped in.
With the doors playing really loudly.
Now, boys, if you see anybody wearing black pajamas, you run towards them and you press that button there.
Dim, dim, dim.
Boom. You got your woodcraft, you got your killing gooks.
You got your napalm waistcoat, too. Well, there you are, yes. And Poles are the only army, I think, where they have that salute with 2 fingers. Supposedly after some Polish war hero who had 3 fingers blown off.
Do I look Polish?
You look very Polish, yeah.
Oh, do a Polish polar bear.
Fantastic, thank you. Well, that bombshell, that's it for another week, I'm sorry to say. And the final scores are poles apart. Phil scored a piping hot 4. Rich barely scraped in ahead of Clive with 2 and 1 respectively. But Alan bombed with -4. Two fingers to Alan and to you all. It's do widzenia. Good night. And welcome to QI for another desperate paddle on the shores of the unknown. And holding the buckets and spades tonight are Sean Locke, Jimmy Carr, Rory McGraw, and Alan Davies. Well, we are concentrating tonight on common knowledge. So each of our panel has a common noise. Sean goes. Jimmy goes. Rory goes. And Alan goes. That is, of course, the House of Commons. But the answer to one of the questions tonight is so extraordinary and difficult, I certainly don't think you're going to get it right. And if you do, I'll give you 100 points. So with that in mind, Sean, name the commonest bird in the world.
Dave, well, yeah, obviously the temptation is to say somebody who's a bit of a slapper. But I rise above that, obviously. That's the thing. Is it a duck?
It's not a duck.
Can I say, it must be the domesticated chicken?
Yeah, he's absolutely right. Well done. Sorry.
It's not very funny.
What a good start. The Kinsey report demonstrated that 1 in 6 men in Iowa had had sex with a chicken.
Is it like they're in the room? You know, if they've got a chicken sitting next to you, they've actually had sex with chicken.
With against inside one, as it were, yes.
Really? You see, I mean, I don't know anything about it. This is like cockfighting, or is it different from...
I cannot speak from personal experience.
I don't know what the female chicken's aperture, is that the right word?
They get an egg out of it.
Well, it hasn't... Good point.
So you'd probably be all right girth-wise.
What a lovely thought, Alan. Especially if you've got an egg-shaped cock.
Or with a little line on it.
Yeah. Do you think he had a question that said, have you ever had sex with a chicken? And, like, 1 in 6 people go, yep.
Oh, you got me.
Or did he catch 1 in 6 men in Iowa?
Do we know that it was actual, proper, you know, sexual intercourse? Or maybe
They definitely didn't get a blowjob off it,
Quick tack on the cheek, possibly. I'm going to raise the tone now. Why did the inventor of the decimal point encourage his servants to stroke his cock?
Well raised.
Yes, thank you.
Is it because if you've got servants, you would?
I'm more interested in the decimal point thing because you said he invented the decimal point. So before that, they didn't have
there were
it.
fractions.
So would they say something like, well, 23 and like a bit?
They would say a half, and they'd say a
Oh, I
quarter,
see.
and they'd
So-
say
so
4
there's
fifths,
fractions
and they'd say
beforehand.
7/10.
Was it a long time ago? The decimal point invention?
The dates of John Napier were 1550 to 1617.
Was it
John Napier, who invented logarithms.
He did indeed invent the logarithm.
The cock is not.
You're right, it's a cockerel, it's a rooster. He was an extraordinary man, John Napier. He wore black, and a lot of his neighbours thought that he was somehow in league with the devil. And he had this jet black cock as his constant companion. And when it became obvious...
Did he do that purely for double entendre?
No, I think...
Have you seen my massive black cock? Etc. Never. A hit at dinner parties in Edinburgh.
Probably the Laird of Merchiston or something.
He was indeed. Well,
Look at
I
the
think I'll
black
definitely
cock
give you
on
5 points for knowing that John...
But he invented logs, which simply, when you're at school, you know that 2 and 2 equals 4.
Yeah.
Okay? When you do logs, invented by John Napier, 2 and 2 equals 3.999999999 recurring.
Yes.
How clever is that? Eh?
Yes, but you're right, he was also Baron Murchison. There were some thefts, and he was almost certain it was one of his servants. And he wanted to trap the servants. Now, we're talking late 16th, early 17th century, so they were quite gullible, perhaps. And what he told them was that his rooster, his cock, could tell which one of his servants had stolen from him.
Sorry, quite gullible.
Yeah, yeah. He put the cockerel in a darkened room, see? And the servants had to go in, and each one had to stroke it, like that. And he told them that when it was stroked, it could tell which one had thieving fingers. So they all had to go in and stroke it. So all the servants did this. What they didn't know was, in this darkened room, he had covered his cockerel in soot. So all the ones who were completely innocent thought, I don't mind, I'll stroke it, I'm very happy to. But the one who had stolen thought, I'm just going to pretend I've stroked it. So he was the only one with clean hands.
Wow.
It's quite clever, isn't
Cunning
it?
plan.
It is genuinely a cunning
Do you think
plan.
the Metropolitan Police could use this?
He also invented, supposedly, the machine gun. He's an extraordinary man. He liked a bit of rough as well. No, but she isn't. Piccadilly, what's the connection with...
Piccadillo is the old name for a rough, isn't it? They used to manufacture them in Piccadilly. Did I say that too quickly?
Isn't he good? Isn't he good?
And a pigadillo is a cross between a pig and an armadillo. It tastes like shit, and the crackling is fantastic.
Very nice. Very nice indeed. Rory, well, while we're on you, as it were, thick, fat, coarse and lazy.
Thank you. I'm going now.
No, thick, fat, coarse and lazy. What's the difference between a chevin and a chavender?
This is probably something to do with Is it
Chevin?
Is chevin a sort of portmanteau word for a chav who's actually called Kevin?
Oh, dear, oh, dear, oh, dear. Well,
no!
I'm afraid you've fallen into a slight trap there. No, it's not that.
A chavender. I'm now frightened by the four. I forgot about the forfeit thing.
Yeah.
The chavender I was going to say was that episode of EastEnders when they all dress in sort of brown Burberry. That's called the Chavenders.
Yes,
but I'm not going to say that now in case I get a chavender is a fish, isn't it?
He's awfully good.
But it's a roach or a chub, one of those
Very
common
good. This is
freshwater
marvellous
fishes.
work. It's a chub. And so is a chevin. In fact, there's no difference. It's another word for it as well.
Oh.
They're all types of carp, hence coarse and fat.
Ah.
Because it's coarse as in coarse fishing. They are chubs. We get our word chubby from them.
Is it?
We do. That's where the word chubby... No one, oddly enough, knows where the word chub itself comes from.
Why are they called coarse fishing?
Is it the course of the water?
No, coarse with an A, dear.
People can spell things wrong, can't they? Easily done.
Not on my watch.
Can you tell if I'm spelling things wrong when I say them?
There was a character Smith could. Smith, who spelt his name with a silent P, could tell when people said Smith without pronouncing the silent P, even though it was a silent P. He's one of Peter Woodhouse's very first fictional characters.
All right.
But while we are reflecting on God's little chubsters, Jimmy, how many burglaries are committed in the UK by koalas every day?
Every day?
Yeah.
I'm guessing it's quite a low figure. Now, are we talking breaking and entering or planning to deprive of property on a continual basis because they're different charges?
The thing about koalas is they are the most law-abiding of all the bears.
Of course, they're not bears.
Order! Yes, Alan.
They're not bears.
Thank you.
They've got a very long intestine. They sleep for 22 hours a day.
I tell you what, though, all the indigenous mammals in Australasia are marsupials.
Are therefore not mammals.
Yeah. Yes. Actually,
It's fantastic.
Did you know that? They're cats. They're cats, all of them.
I think they're big.
Try to say something clever. Sorry, back to the knob gags.
Well, no, fair point. The things that are almost like furry, if you mean, but aren't.
Well, if I said almost like furry, I would have sounded like Alan. There'd be no point to that. I was trying to be all clever.
Sorry, that koala, it looks like he's waiting for the fire brigade.
Look at his paws, though.
I was going to say,
Look at his
what's your
paws.
favourite bit of the koala?
The paws are gorgeous.
Do you
aren't
like the little hand?
I like the cock. I told you.
Fluffy ears? Or the little hard nosy bit?
they? I want you, though, to concentrate on the paws.
I like the lips toasted.
Concentrate. Yes,
I've
Jimmy.
got it. Fingerprints, because koala fingerprints are indistinguishable from human fingerprints.
Fingerprints is right, Jimmy. Well, let's have a look. Let's see some human prints, some koala prints, and maybe some chimpanzee prints. Which is which, would you say?
Human print is on the left. No, it's not. It's in the middle.
So what's that? Human in the middle?
Yes.
Right, and chimpanzee and...
Oh, chimpanzee is on the right, and that one over there, that's a koala. I'm mistaken.
Oh, I wonder if you're right. No, it's a human on the left and a koala in the middle and a chimpanzee on the right. And even under a scanning electron microscope, it's incredibly hard to see any difference between a koala print and a human print. And the chimpanzee is very closely
That's
related.
extraordinary, because the koala evolved in isolation in Australasia.
It's called convergent evolution, where things that are evolving completely separately come up with similar solutions.
Or they were all made by God.
Or they were all made by God. Do you know the word, incidentally? Do you know... Oh, look, I'm going through chavs. I've got all kinds of interesting stuff about chavs.
I could tell you something interesting about chavs.
Go on, tell me where the word comes from.
When I first read the word in the tabloids, I hadn't heard it out loud yet, and I thought it was pronounced shav.
Oh, look. That's so unshabby, isn't it? A
How posh is that? These shavs, I must meet them, they sound lovely.
So anyway, koalas have fingerprints that are almost identical to human beings, and this was discovered by a Polish man called Henneberg, who is an anthropologist and paleopathologist, but also a dermatoglyphic expert. And the word dermatoglyphics means the study of fingerprints.
Yeah, of course it does.
And I'll give you 10 points if you can tell me what's unusual about this word. It shares a particular property with only one other word in the English language.
Does it have all the letters of the word dermatoglyphic in it?
Actually, the only other word that shares this property is the word uncopyrightable.
Is it the vowels in the right order?
No, they're the longest words in the English language, 15
Without
letters,
E in it?
with no repetition of a letter, which all the letters are different.
That's
Simple as that.
fantastic. My favourite word, the longest palindrome in human language it's the Finnish word saipuikikaupias, but the meaning is a travelling salesman who sells caustic soda to the soap industry.
Excellent. Now, what's the commonest metal in the human body?
Ooh, that's a very good question.
Iron.
Iron? Oh dear, no.
I think it's mercury.
Oh dear.
I think it must be calcium.
Oh no, he's got it! He's got it, it's calcium! Absolutely right! £100, right.
Because the bones are mainly calcium phosphate crystals, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah. Wood.
Calcium atomic number 20. Last year I learned all the atomic numbers of all the elements.
Good Lord.
Because I was helping my son to revise. And I've actually tried to forget them as much as I can since then, because it's just been so embarrassing
Selenium?
to know them all. Selenium, 30 something.
I have no idea. I know it's close to arsenic because I saw
It's
it in
34.
the film Evolution.
It's 34. Selenium is 34, arsenic's 33.
Very good. Good.
But
We should really put railings around you and have children come and stare
calcium,
at
I
you.
presume, because calcium phosphate is the main constituent of bones.
Indeed, calcium is as a metal is almost never found in nature.
Phosphorus is, of course, I think 15.
Yeah, let's move aside from the slightly more... It's not really an autistic
You're
quiz.
basically- You're doing atomic number wheelies now. Wow! You pull up outside pubs and go, selenium 32.
Calcium comes from the Latin calx, isn't it? Meaning a stone or a pebble, from which we get calculus and calculation, and recalcitrant, and all kinds of words. There you are. It was discovered in 1808 by Sir
I think
Humphrey Davy.
recalcitrant actually comes from calx meaning a heel, not calx meaning it's kicking back.
You're right, you should have points to that. It is indeed from a heel, you're quite right.
Now, this is a team game, isn't it? I'm on his team. This is my teammate here. We're killing them. Hey? Come on. You want some?
Yes, but later on, when we go out, people will talk to us.
You can have some points if you can tell me how much calcium you think there is in the average human body in weight.
A pound.
Yeah, a pound
No,
and a bit.
it's more than twice that. It's about a kilogram, actually.
98% liquid, aren't we?
We're about 70% liquid.
Are we?
Yeah.
I'll come back to you with a percentage if you really want one.
Well, I just said 70. I'm fine, thanks.
Something's 98% liquid, I know it is.
There's a cucumber.
Is it the sea? It's got a couple of bikes in it and a shopping trolley.
No, the sea is only 4% water.
Yeah, it's true. The sea is mainly...
Got away with it.
If you took all of the fish and the whales and everything out of the sea,
Yeah.
how far down did it go?
You've reminded me of my favourite Stephen Wright joke.
Go on.
Imagine how deep the ocean would be if there weren't sponges.
That's very good.
It's good, yeah.
So there we are. Though non-metals are more abundant in nature, metals make up almost 75% of the periodic table. Soft, silvery calcium is one of them. Well, there we are. Now, listen, we're going to the House of Commons. Who was Britain's first Prime Minister? Team, panel, friends.
Wasn't it Walpole?
Walpole? Oh, no. Shame on you. No, it wasn't.
Lord Snooty.
Pitt.
Oh, but you meant the younger. Yes, you meant
Pitt
the
the
younger.
elder was a tree, wasn't he?
Was it some sort of king that proclaimed himself the Prime Minister before he handed over power?
No, it was a politician. It was in the last
Oliver
century.
Cromwell?
Oh, it was 100 years ago, almost exactly, that he became Prime
Israeli.
Minister. 100 years ago, well, never mind, no. 100 years ago would be 1905, wouldn't it?
This show favours people who know stuff.
I know, it's so
Did
unfair.
someone like Roosevelt MacDonald?
No, he was a bit later. 1905 to 1908.
Campbell Bannerman.
Henry Campbell Bannerman. Well done, thank you, absolutely. Henry Campbell Bannerman. He's not perhaps the best known of our Prime Ministers, but he ought to be.
He was one of triplets as well.
He was actually a very good Prime Minister. He introduced old age pensions, he fought for the poor.
He was the first Prime Minister. What were they called?
They were called First Lord of the Treasury before that. He was the first one to be called Prime Minister.
First Lord of the Treasury.
Yeah, they're still First Lords of the Treasury if they're Prime Minister, but they're Prime Minister and First Lord of the Treasury. Now, before they were simply... They used the word Prime Minister sometimes as an insult, but they were never called Prime Minister until 1905.
What was Ethelred the Unready?
He was a king. Yes. Yes. His last words, Henry Campbell Bannerman, were, "This is not the end of me."
So,
The term Prime Minister was first officially used in 1905, just 5 days after Campbell Bannerman became one. And Sir Robert Walpole, generally recognised as the first de facto Prime Minister, never used it. Now the round where our guests are encouraged to display their lack of common knowledge, it's general ignorance. So, fingers on the buzzers, please, if you'd be so kind. What's another name for the common cormorant? Yes, Rory.
Sea crow.
Oh, very good, it is. That's the right answer. Any other?
The Latin name is Phylacra
What are you going to say?
Can I just give the Latin name?
I was going to say shag.
Shag, oh no!
Well, there's a poem, isn't there?
Yes, there is a poem by Christopher Isherwood which goes, "The common cormorant or shag..."
Or shag lays its eggs in a paper bag.
Yeah.
The cormorant is the Phylacrocorax carbo. The shag is Phylacrocorax aristotelis. It doesn't have the white face and the...
This is brilliant. I mean, this is everything I got
You
rid
get
of
called
done.
tosser, mate.
Oh, no. Poor Rory.
It's a fair question. I only get called tosser by other people.
Do you remember anything he said?
No, not a word. He said something about calcium. There's a tree with a funny name. I don't know. Koalas invented rice.
The reason sea crow is the actual word cormorant comes from Corvus marinus, which is the Latin for sea crow.
Old swatty.
Yeah. Because in the end, you are a lot less irritating than Bill Oddie, aren't you?
Well, it's funny you should say Bill Oddie, because Bill Oddie and I decided we should do a bird watching programme in which Bill plays the expert and I play the sort of the keen, ignorant person. And I was going to call the programme Panori Biarmici, which is the Latin name for bearded tits.
Very good.
It's probably about 6 blokes of Oxford have gone, huh?
You see that?
The Phylacrocorax graculus would be... It's the crested cormorant, isn't it? It's because the graculus is a jackdaw.
No, a jackdaw is Corvus monedula.
Yes, but it's another word. It's the actual Latin name. The actual Latin name for a jackdaw was graculus.
Okay, so let's not fall out over this, Stephen.
No, it's what... No, I'm saying real Latin. No. You might be interested. If Roman people actually called birds things before they were... Oh dear.
Sorry about that. I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
There's a portal into the underworld here. It's ridiculous.
There is a species of cormorant that can't fly. Do you know what that is?
The flightless cormorant.
Sorry, I missed something.
Yes.
Can you go over it again?
It's the
Crassicus
apterus.
Nicotus nocatus. It sounds like
Nocturum
You know how the
harrisii.
show's called Quite Interesting?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we veered off.
I'm with you, all right, okay. Anyway, I'm impressed with Rory, and I think
I'm
everyone
impressed
else
with you,
is too.
Stephen.
No, it's
I've got a feeling, Rory, that you have pulled.
all it takes is a cute mind. So, the common cormorant is not a shag, nor does it lay its eggs inside a paper bag. The two are related, but definitely not the same species. The shag gets its name from the tuft of feathers that it has on its shaggy head. Now, next question. How many cardigans does the Queen have? Yes.
She's got Cardigan Bay, that's hers. She's got a couple of bits of knitwear, and then she's got aren't her dogs?
Ah, that's you're very, very good. The corgis are divided. There are 2 breeds of corgi, aren't there? There's the cardigan corgi and...
She needs her roots doing that.
There's the...
If I say the answer in a different language, do I get more points? Ocho! Ocho cardiganes, Lequino Havarone. Questo 8 me non capare fai che tu bringa.
Did you get extra points for making up a language?
Probably. Jimmy Tarbug, he was doing one of those Royal Command performances, and as he was going off, he looked up into the Royal Box and said, "Oh, that reminds me, I must buy a stamp." Quite a good line. Yes, you're right. There is a cardigan corgi. She has many corgis, but all her corgis are not cardigans. They are actually Pembroke.
Ah,
there you are. Hardy Amis, when he was first told he was going to be designing frocks for the Queen, was invited to lunch at Buckingham Palace and was rather startled to see he was, in fact, the only guest. And footman came in with a big glass with breadsticks in it, you know, those grissinis. And the Queen leant forward and took 5 of them out and put them on her side plate. So he did exactly the same, thinking, I've got to do exactly so. He took out 5 of these breadsticks. And then throughout the... she just sort of nibbled on one, like... And there was, you know, about sort of that much of it had gone by the end of the meal. And then a footman came in with 4 corgis, and she gave 1 to each corgi. Then she turned to Hardy Amis and said, "So, Mr. Amis, what are you going to do with yours?" Despite having a Welsh name, Pembroke Corgis are in fact of Nordic extraction and related to the Lundehund, a puffin hunting dog, which is a striking idea.
Fraticula arctica.
Oh, you are just beginning to try my patience now.
Oh, my God. Rory, shut the up,
Time for the quickfire round.
Now, here we go. Next general ignorance question. Why does the House of Lords smell faintly of urine?
There used to be a public telephone box.
No, that isn't the reason.
Is it because they've got one of those plug-in Glade things? And it's taken the edge right off?
No, it's because there used to be more hereditary peers, and hereditary peers, what do they usually wear? What's the sort of jacket going to be?
Tweed.
Tweed.
Yeah. Tweed, as we all know, is made with urine.
Yes.
What?
Is the answer, yes.
Is it? Yes, it is, yes. Yeah, Rory, I told you.
Yeah. Because, you see, the landed gentry...
Where have you been buying your tweed?
No. We're talking about the landed gentry here. They have always gone for tweed because of its strength, and all the great estates have their own patterns, their own sort of plaids, and it was fixed using stale urine, particular colour, whatever the colour would be. The trouble is when it rains, it gets slightly damp, this whole odour of urine tends to come off. And so, of course, the removal of most of the hereditaries from the house and the introduction of chemical mordants has meant that the piquant aroma of eau de seigneur has more or less now disappeared from the house. Our question is, where did Mr. Chicken live?
The other side of the road?
Very good.
They didn't live in Kentucky next to Colonel Sanders.
Oh, dear. I'm afraid that we were there before you. No, it is a very famous address that we've sort of not exactly discussed, but tangentially.
House of Commons. House of
Downing Street.
Lords.
Number 1, London.
Downing Street, who said
10
that?
Downing Street.
10 Downing Street. He was the last private resident of 10 Downing Street. Right. It was Robert Walpole who took it over, and King George wanted to give it to Walpole, and Walpole said, no, it must be for all Lords of the Treasury to come after me. I mustn't own it myself. It's actually 2 houses. It's a rather ordinary terraced house in the front, but the grander mansion is at the back, backing onto Horse Guards Parade.
Isn't it the only door in London that only opens from the inside?
My door opens from the inside.
It's the outside as well, isn't it? If you're on the outside and want to get in, you can get in, can't you?
It's a house, yes.
Not there.
Not there, you can't
Someone
get in.
has to open it.
Yeah.
Someone has to be inside to let you in. You can't
Which actually is
get the key and
When
push
they've
it
all-
over.
So when they've all been out and they want to
There's
get
always
back
someone in
just-
there. There's always someone in there.
Well, why did you sing that? It was a little bit scary. There's always someone in there.
I wanted to frighten you.
And I think
I think someone might be under the desk now. So someone's employed to open the door.
Yes.
it's got a doorman.
That's a rubbish job, isn't it?
Well, I'm sure they have other duties.
Closing it again.
For example.
Taking the coat hanger out of Cherry's mouth.
Excellent. Sadly, nothing else is known of Mr. Chicken.
He was a philatelist and he worked in a bank. And he used to sail.
That's right.
So there's 3 facts, so I should get some points for those. Little known facts, but
I think he also played the tenor banjo.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
He had 11 knuckles.
another than Katie.
Actually, a chicken.
So, the most biographed man in the 18th century, Mr. Ralph Waldo Peterson Arnold Chicken, the third. We salute you for giving us 10 Downing Street, and that's about it for us chickens. And so, let's see what's in my little nest box now. In last place, it's Jimmy with -12. Well played, Jimmy. Well done. Fine. Third is Alan with -9. And for all his self-deprecation, in a very good second place with 0, Sean Locke. But our runniest away winner ever, Rory McGrath, with 88 points. Two fat ladies. There you are. Well, that's just about everything from QI. Thank you to Alan, Sean, Jimmy and Rory for being very game-foul indeed. And I leave you with this piece of uncommon knowledge about calcium from Jack Handy. Most people don't realise that large pieces of coral, which have been painted brown and attached to the skull by common wood screws, can make a child look like a deer. Good night. Good evening and welcome to QI for another tentative sniff at the enormous bottom of knowledge. And rubbing up against my leg this evening are Jeremy Clarkson, Neil Malarkey, Lisa Charbot, and Alan Davies. Well, tonight's show is all about dogs, and the buzzers are absolutely barking. Neil goes... Lisa goes... Oh. Jeremy goes... And Alan goes... So, it's very much a doggy evening, and my first question is, why are cats comparatively comparable, whereas dogs are distinctly different?
Cats mating, it can be quite an exclusive little gang, whereas dogs, they can run riot, so you could have a Great Dane with a Chihuahua.
It's a nice image.
It would involve a stepladder.
Yes.
Or a ditch.
Is it DNA because cats have very similar DNA, whereas some dogs are more like horses? So a Dalmatian is nearer a zebra than a Great Dane. And most dogs are horses, really, or some are crocodiles and some are giraffes. Well, whereas all cats are cats.
We're sort of along the right lines, in as much as you've mentioned a Great Dane. Dogs can have as wide a spectrum of breed as a St. Bernard, a Newfoundland, a Great Dane, and a Chihuahua or a Mexican hairless. Cats are almost all more or less the same.
What, tigers, Manx, cats?
No. They're different species, the lions and the tigers and so on. No matter how much you breed cats, you will not get the variation you do in dogs. Dogs are unique in all animal species. Horses and cats are being bred as much as dogs over human history, but there just isn't the variety. And nobody knows why dogs have this extraordinary variety.
There's a huge amount of horses.
There are a lot of them, yes, but they're all... The point is they're not as physically distinct from each other as different breeds of dog are, one from the other. There is no animal that has...
Fish.
In one species... No, there are lots of different species of fish.
Hugely different. It's a good point.
Exactly.
But they're all different species. They
Where's this a shark? Oh, no, it isn't. It's an
a shark can't mate with a guppy.
How do we know?
We know. We're going to introduce
a stepladder or a ditch?
A ditch. It might be able to shag one, but the point is the egg won't be fertilised.
Hang your shark in the aquarium, so just his genitals are in there. And then try and lure your guppy over.
This actually is a question I can ask here is, do dogs, when they start off in the doggy position, I was told the other day that they swivel and end up bottom to bottom. Is that true?
I'm going to come to this question now. I've actually provided you each with a pair of dogs for you to demonstrate to me how you think dogs mate. I'm going to start with Neil. Neil, can you bring out your dog? So, Neil.
Nice party, isn't it? How about dinner later? All right. There we are.
My dog has actually got a boyfriend who is a basset, and that's what he does.
And what was your theory there?
You get the collar and the tail, and then...
No.
That's what I do.
That's great.
My question is...
Yes.
This, okay?
Sure.
That. Do they then turn and wind up like this, some dogs?
Depends what's on telly.
What do you think? What I'm going to do there is I'm going to give points to Jeremy, because the fact is, it is arse to arse, as it were. The male lifts a leg and swings it over the female's back while turning round. So it's a little like a dance there, and it's turned around, so they are now back to back. They stand with their hind ends touching, and the penis locked inside the vagina while ejaculation occurs, which is nice. Virgin dogs can become quite distressed because they find themselves often unable to separate during their first copulation. They get stuck because they can't disengorge. They have to think about John Prescott or something very, very... and then they'll go down.
We've got a Labradoodle now.
Have you?
Yeah. Graham Norton's got one as well.
You have the same dog as Graham Norton?
Yeah.
Wow. Does he...
Everything will get you nowhere, Stephen.
No, I'm rethinking you in all kinds of ways. And, there is a blend of a poodle with a Yorkshire Terrier. What are you doing? Very nice.
It says cats are stupid.
Cats are stupid.
Can they give you asthma?
Yes, they do.
They do give you asthma, which is why I practice my drop kicks on them.
You love getting watches, don't you? No, there is a blend of Yorkshire Terrier and Poodle, and if anyone sees the owner of such a thing, you have to kill them because they've called it a Yorkie poo.
What's your stance on dogs having clothes on?
Oh, f*** off. No, I mean...
Talking of John Prescott, have you seen this dog?
Oh, my God, it really is. Unbelievable.
All right, come here, love.
So, we're absolutely right about doggy style. Doggy style, they do, of course, mount each other in that fashion that we call doggy style, but very rarely does ejaculation take place. So let's put our dogs away now, if we may, please. Thank you, children.
Goodbye, Bruno.
Say bye-bye. So, what's the most interesting thing a dog can smell? Yes, Neil.
A dog's dinner.
Yes. To a dog, that is the most interesting thing a dog can smell.
Another dog's bottom.
Yep. Oh, there you are. Oh, no.
My crotch. But they all do.
They do. Oh, dear, dear. Can you blame them? They're only flesh and blood. This is really interesting because it's terribly touching, really, that they can smell this. And
Cancer.
It's cancer.
No, really?
Yeah. So there was a woman who, her dog kept pawing at her leg. And she had nothing on her leg that was peculiar, just a normal number of moles, but it was only interested in one of the moles. And when she wore shorts, it tried to nip it. And so she went to the doctor, and the doctor found that this was a malignant melanoma. Had it taken out. And doctors have found that dogs can smell bladder cancer, lung cancer, 99% efficiency rate at smelling it in people's breath. Lung cancer. Quite extraordinary.
So have I got cancer of the bollocks then?
Well, that's what I was wondering.
Let's not discuss.
No, let's not. For goodness sake. We have something like 50 million of these olfactory cells up here, and they have 220-odd million. But their sense of smell is infinitely better than that. It's not just 220-odd times better. It's thousands of times better. We have machines that can smell a part in a billion, which are fantastically sensitive and complex. Dogs can smell one part in a quadrillion.
I'm worried about this dog. Has it been nailed? It can smell my crotch.
Yeah.
We all can.
I'm sorry.
It is. Yeah. How can you tell the difference between a Scouse dog, for example, and a Scottish dog? How could you tell a Scot from a Liverpudlian when you met them?
Accent.
Accent is the right answer.
Oh, you don't.
Oh, no.
Apparently, there's been a lot of research by the Canine Behaviour Centre in Cumbria, and you're going to possibly snort with derision when I tell you this, but owners and dogs left messages on the centre's answering machine. Experts then compared the pitch, tone, volume and length of the sounds made by human and dog. and they found that the Scouse and Scots dogs have the most distinctive accents. The Scouse dogs have higher pitched voices than their equivalents.
I saw the other day that somebody's worked out that dolphins give one another names. They just don't. I mean, she's calling him Peter. He isn't.
So you really don't believe it?
No.
I believe it, yeah.
Thank you.
You go, woof woof, all right, or woof woof, okay, the new.
So they're pretty stereotyped, aren't they? Well, of course, it makes sense. I mean, a dog does imitate the behaviour of the pack it's in other words, the family or the owner. So, for example, terriers that live with families with children become very manic, and the same breed of terrier, indeed from the same family, if it's with an old lady, will start shuffling along looking forlorn way before it's time.
Do they smell of wee?
Did they say how old they are? I'm 7, you know. Possibly they do.
I'm 8 next year.
So, still dog-related. What kind of dog lays eggs? Yes.
Dogfish.
Yeah.
Is the right answer. That's simple. Exactly. And what sort of fish is a dogfish?
It's a shark.
Catfish.
It's a shark, is right, Lisa. Absolutely, you get some points for that. It is a type of shark, yeah. And the sea dog, this marvellous whale shark.
That's the biggest fish in the world. It's a
It
fish.
is. You get a point for knowing that. It is actually around about 100 times the size of the average dogfish. That's
That's the Napoleon wrasse underneath it.
well spotted. Have you ever come across
feed
one of
them a
these?
hard-boiled egg, the Napoleon wrasse, and they'll eat it, and all the shell comes out the gills.
People often think that sharks have to swim all the time in order not to sink to the bottom.
I love people who say that. I'm like a shark, mate. I have to keep moving.
Yeah, exactly that.
They say that.
Yeah, they do.
I have to keep moving. I'll get bored. I go out of my mind. I have to keep moving. I'm like a shark.
There are circumstances in which they don't have to. They can just get currents coming in, but they have to have water
When they go to the
moving
pictures,
through
for
their
example,
gills. They go to the, as you
they
say.
don't keep moving then.
The largest egg ever laid was laid by the whale shark, and they're called a mermaid's purse. Sharks used to be called sea dogs, and small sharks still are called dogfish, as we've discussed. But what's the German for sausage dog?
Dachshund.
Dachshund, oh dear, no. No, oddly enough, it is a German word. It means, you know what dach?
Low, long.
It means a badger hound.
That's a badger.
But they don't call them a dachshund, the Germans. They call them a dackel. They never say dachshund, oddly enough. But we say it. They're dackel in Gothic writing.
So what's German for dog, then?
Hund, as in our word hound. It's rather odd, because in English, Old English, the only word we had for dog was Hund, or hound. And then suddenly, in late Middle English, this word dog arrived. And no one knows where it comes from. It's one of the great etymological mysteries of English, is nobody knows where the word dog originates. Dogger, as in Dogger Bank, is said to come from a Dutch word, dogger, which means a type of ship.
So you're sure it doesn't mean four-legged animal that barks? Because that would answer.
That would be a hint as to where we got the word, wouldn't it? There'd be some red faces all round in Oxford. Oh, damn, didn't think of that. What comes before a German bite? No, yes.
A German bark.
Yeah. You were thinking of JS, possibly,
No,
right?
they never bark when they're going to attack you. It's when they go quiet, that's when you have to worry.
Germans.
I don't know about Germans, but definitely dogs.
Definitely, yeah. Any other thoughts?
Lundy.
You're on the right line.
I was
but
thinking it was
isn't
Fisher,
London.
isn't it?
Fisher is the
Fisher.
right answer. And the first one, oddly enough, is the one we were discussing. Dogger. Dogger, Fisher, German, bite. It's like a great British poem. Do you know what we're talking about here, Alan?
It's the shipping forecast.
Yeah, exactly.
I call them the chicken forecast, because that's what it always sounded like when I was a kid. And now, the chicken forecast.
So you get things like Solm Lundy fastnet southeasterly 4 or 5, backing northwesterly 5 to 7, veering easterly later in Lundy, rain or showers, moderate or good. What's the difference between backing and veering?
It's weather. The chicken are backing or the chicken are veering, that's what it's about.
Veering means the wind is changing in a clockwise direction. Backing means it's changing in an anti-clockwise direction. And they always start where? Which one is the first one? When they go through the areas? No, they don't start with Rockall.
40s.
Pharaoh.
No,
Pharaohs, Bailey, Hebrides.
Viking.
Viking is the first one.
Oh, damn you.
It's doing Viking, Northern Sierra, Southern Sierra, 40s, Cromarty, fourth chine, dogger, fisher, German bite, and so on. So there you are. Sierra, German bite invariably follows dogger and, as Jeremy so rightly pointed out, fisher in the shipping forecast. But there we are. We've all heard of the Isle of Dogs, but what famous islands are named after birds? Any thoughts? There are quite a few.
Puffin Island.
Is correct. Any others?
Penguin Island, Sparrow Island, Blackbird Island, Eagle Island, Heron Island,
Thrush Island,
the Canary Island.
Oh, but no! No, the Canary Islands aren't. There's an example.
That's not the Canary Islands.
That is actually Bird Island we're looking at. You're absolutely right.
That's in the Seychelles.
In the Seychelles, you're quite right. Yeah, no, the Canary Islands are named after dogs. Insula Canaris means the Isle of Dogs, and the birds are named after the island. Do you know about canary wrestling?
No.
It's just a form of wrestling in the Canary Islands.
How does it work?
Well, you stand in a sand circle called a terrero, and basically, like sumo a bit, your feet have to be in the sand. If any other part of your body touches the sand, you're beaten.
Is it Is it canaries wrestling?
No, people from the Canary Islands.
Oh, I thought it was canaries. I just didn't see why they did. Why would they wrestle?
Well, you have cockfighting.
Well, they're angry animals.
Do you know about La Gomera? Obviously, not having been to the Canary Islands, there is an island called La Gomera. Do you know how they communicate across valleys?
Shouting.
La Gomera? They don't shout.
Mobile phone.
They don't. It's a language they use, but instead of using their vocal cords, they fart. No, they whistle. See if you can tell what they're whistling. It's in Spanish. That is John milked the goats. I'm not making this up. The next one. That was Domingo was sick. Honestly. Let's hear that one again, because you can hear the Domingo, now you know. Listen. Domingo!
I can't help noticing. Although it's in Spanish, he does have a Liverpool accent.
Why don't they just talk to each other?
Because it's bouncing off the canyons of the gorges of the valleys of La Gomera.
This is still on the Canary Islands now, is it?
Yeah.
Is this the one that's going to fall in the sea and wipe out the whole of the eastern seaboard of America?
I'm glad you asked me that, Mr. Clarkson, because that is La Palma in the Canaries. The volcano in La Palma is said that if it goes off in a big way, it will cause a tsunami that will engulf the whole of the eastern seaboard of the United States of America.
I think there's a piece of rock that's overhanging that's going to fall in the sea.
Yeah, it will cause the collapse of the western half of the island, which will then trigger this massive tsunami. Anyway, there you are. There is a style of fighting on the Canaries, as I said, called Canarian wrestling. But explain, what is dog kung fu? How does that work? You can use your dog as if you... Anybody know? Yes.
I happen to know that this is mainly female kung fu, and the initial stance is hands down there, legs firmly on the floor, like
a dog.
A dog.
You're absolutely right. Very correct. Well, brilliant. Yeah. It was invented by a Chinese nun called Wu Mei, who was wandering around her country, and she couldn't afford a retinue, and she had bound feet, and she found it very difficult to fight, on her feet. So she developed this form of fighting on all fours, which involves scissor kicks and big kicks to the groin and so on. Do you know what any of the martial arts mean? What karate means, for example?
Empty hand.
Empty hand is correct, absolutely.
Judo. Be like a Jewish wedding or a party.
Oh, dear. It supposedly means the gentle way. I think we'd better say something about dog fighting, apart from dog kung fu. Who won the Battle of Britain for us? What machine?
Spitfire.
Spitfire, the Hurricane.
Oh, Spitfire. Who said it first? I don't know.
I think I did,
Cheated.
I'll accept that.
And then you said Hurricane, which unfortunately is the right answer.
A lot more Hurricanes.
It's a moot point, so let's get you on this subject. Well, the Hurricanes knocked out 1,593 aircraft out of 2,739 knocked out of the skies.
Yes, and the first 2 planes shot down by Spitfires in the Second World War were Hurricanes.
You're absolutely right.
I still maintain that the Spitfire is a better.
Oh, I agree. They're more glamorous. They're
They
sexy.
weren't as pretty.
They weren't. I mean, there's lovely. Yes.
That's just not as pretty. I mean, I know there were more of them.
The point is, they shot down the bombers, really, and the Spitfires were very good at picking out the fighters.
If you ever talk to a Battle of Britain pilot, because that's what they asked them to do. They said to the Hurricane guys, you go after the bombers and leave the Spitfires to go after the fighters. Apparently, if you dived into a German formation, you just went like, ah! You opened your eyes and there was all clearly gone and you didn't know what you'd hit and there was nobody. The notion that you would go, right, I'm going for that Heinkel or whatever.
Do you know how dogfights began and when they began?
After the plane was invented, I should imagine.
Yes, but it would have been
the
First World War, exactly.
They didn't have any guns. So they'd lob things out.
Well, to begin with, you're absolutely right. They'd throw bricks at each other. But it started, they would wave at each other because they didn't regard the aeroplane as being in any sense a military thing. It was just for observation and reconnaissance. And so they'd go, hello, and then the war started to get a bit nasty and they'd start doing V signs. And then they started throwing bricks, and then Mills bombs, and using the observer, the spotter, would use pistol, and then they did indeed fit guns onto them. And amazingly, I've still found, because I used to love Biggles, and it always used to astonish me that the guns were synchronised to fire through the propeller, which is just astonishing.
It was my favourite VC winner was a First World War fighter pilot, and he was called Ferdinand West, I think. And they were attacked by 7 German planes, and in the first wave he had his leg shot off, completely off. So it was jamming the controls. He took it out and threw it out of the plane. Manoeuvred his plane so they could get off some good bursts into the Germans, drove them away, dropped his bombs, landed back at base, apologised for the poor quality of his landing, and then sought medical attention.
My great uncle had his tongue shot off in the war. Never talked about it. But, Joe Bagger, sorry, thank you. Why did fighter pilots nearly always in the First World War have terrible diarrhea? I mean, awful galloping runs.
Well, it'd be quite frightening.
Well, yeah. Fear does turn the bowels to water, but there's something else that made it even worse.
Something the sun smell, fumes?
The bearings in the propellers were lubricated with castor oil. And castor oil is used for constipation, and certainly was right up until the 50s.
They all get the runs?
So they all got the most galloping runs, allied to, as you say, the fear. You're allowed to poo yourself. There's fear at this next round of questions, because it's time now to snuffle around for the leftover scraps in the doghouse of general ignorance, so fingers on buzzers, if you please. Where do gorillas sleep? Yes, very
Nests.
quick. It's the right answer. They do.
Look at the way he's eating his rocket salad.
Yeah.
He's got his little finger like that.
Isn't it very delicate, isn't it?
Slightly
They're
sort of
amazing animals.
Camp gorilla.
But what I found interesting is the wives and children sleep in trees more than the silverback males.
Yeah.
Fascinating stuff.
Also very odd is that they make a nest every day, even if they haven't moved on. So if they're in the same place, they'll go next to their perfect nest they made the night before and make a new one.
And alone, not with the family.
Yeah. Of course, the proper name for a gorilla, if you're a scientist, is gorilla. This is known as a tautonym, like a tautology, a name which uses the same word twice. 2 others are bison, and iguana, for example. So, see if you can guess these. What is ratus?
A rat.
It is a rat, yes. It's a black rat.
I was expecting all...
Yes, of course you were. No. Aureolus.
The outside of a nipple.
That would be spelled A-U-R-E. Aureolus is an... Do you know the bird? Yeah?
It's a bird.
Boy, it's the golden oriole. The oriole, yes. And the next one would be Cygnus. Yay.
Swan?
Yes, it's the Hooper swan. Absolutely. These are very, very easy. See, you're doing well. Points. And the next one is Puffinus. Yes.
Puffins.
Puffins? Oh, no, that's not puffins. You were doing so well, and finally we baited our trap. Puffinus is actually the Manx shearwater. There is a Manx shearwater, the oldest wild bird, apparently still alive. There was a Manx shearwater breeding on Copeland Island, Northern Ireland, that was tagged as an adult, i.e. at least 5 years old, in July 1953, and retrapped again in July 2003. So it lived to at least 55 years old. The shearwaters migrate 10,000 kilometres a year, so this one had covered a minimum of 1 million kilometres in its life. Or they've discovered a very cunning way of swapping rings. Scientists believe that it is the same one. And that's pretty amazing, isn't it?
So that's puffinus.
For some reason that is called puffinus, whereas a puffin is called Fratercula arctica, which means little brother, because they look like little friars, little black and white.
But they really are nice to eat.
They say they're delicious.
They really are properly nice to eat.
And you know, there's a certain section of society that is very pleased that they're delicious to eat, especially earlier in the year, from sort of February to the end of March. Do you know why that would be? Catholics. Because they used to believe that a puffin was half fish, half bird, and therefore you can eat it on a Friday or in Lent if you're a Catholic. They are extraordinary animals because they can walk, they can swim underwater, and they can fly. And they can do it while carrying at least 12 fish in their mouths.
And be on your supper plate about 8.
You know that joke, don't you? What's the similarity between the pelican and British gas? They can both stick their bills up their arses. There we are. So yes, puffinus is the Manx shearwater. The puffin is Fratercula arctica, as I mentioned, the little brother of the north, which brings us to the scores. And who is our Craft Supreme Champion of Champions tonight? It's newcomer Neil Malarkey with -5 points! Bravo! Only just behind, if not best in show, at least best in breed, is Lisa with -8! In third place, with -13, is Jeremy Clarkson. But our whimpering underdog, forlornly licking the root of his scrotum tonight, is Alan Davies with -36. Well, my thanks go to Lisa, Jeremy, Neil and Alan, and I leave you with this dog-eared newspaper cutting from the Europa Times. Lucky is basically a damn good guide dog, Ernst Gerber, a dog trainer from Wuppertal, told reporters. He just needs a little brush up on some elementary skills. Gerber admitted to the press conference that Lucky, a German Shepherd guide dog for the blind, had so far been responsible for the deaths of all 4 of his previous owners. I admit it's not an impressive record on paper, said Gerber. He led his first owner in front of a bus and the second off the end of a pier. He actually pushed the third owner off a railway platform just as the Cologne to Frankfurt Express was approaching. And he walked his 4th owner into heavy traffic before abandoning him and running away to safety. But apart from epileptic fits, he has a lovely temperament, and guide dogs are hard to train these days. Asked if Lucky's 5th owner would be told about the previous record, Gerber replied, no, it would make them nervous. And that would make Lucky nervous. And when Lucky gets nervous, he's liable to do something silly. Good night. Good evening and welcome to QI. Tonight we are quite interested in engineering, and so we've come equipped with 4 of the sharpest tools in the box. The steely Jimmy Carr. And the power-driven Rob Brydon. With the well-oiled Bill Bailey. The spanner in the works, Alan Davies! So let's hear your precision-engineered sounds. Bill goes... Jimmy goes... And Rob goes... And Alan goes... Now, although tonight's manly menu mainly means engineering matters, Don't forget our elephant in the room bonus prize, will you? No, for predicting the arrival of one or more elephants on the programme. There it is. Right, be ready. First question. Who built Britain's railways?
Look out! Look out!
Oh, Jesus! I say. By the way, I have my own train here. Look at that. There. Isn't that fun? And I have sweets which I can load on and deliver to any particularly interesting answers this evening. So there's an extra incentive.
However, this is turning into my perfect house. More toast, please.
Wallace and Gromit. But you have first to address the question of who built our railways. Richard Branson.
Oh, no. It's not elephants. Large creatures were trained to trample down areas of Britain to be very, very flat. The railway mouse.
Well, you're right, actually.
No.
Sweet.
That's a sweet.
You're right, actually, comma, in saying... in saying that railways had to be flat in the days when they were built in Britain, which were the very earliest days because we were the country that invented the steam locomotive and the railway system, and they weren't powerful enough engines to go up hills or to go even really round bends, so they had to be straight and they had to be flat.
Were they built by the wrong type of builder?
Well, at the time they thought they were the much mocked navvy. They were called navvies. They were mostly Irish.
Yes,
and they were an extraordinary example of man muscle. They really were. It took a year to train a navvy.
Whoa,
you fed them on meat and beer. No Dagenham smiles there, very tightly done trousers. And they...
A Dagenham smile?
The Birmingham to London track took 5 years to build and was the equivalent in work of building 1.5 Great Pyramids. It was an astonishing feat. Astonishing. These people were incredible. As I say, it took a year to train them. They lived on beer and meat, and they could outperform any other manual labourer. I mean, farm workers would be exhausted after a quarter of a day that the navvies could do.
I hear once that the Trans-Siberian Railway, which was meant to be a straight line, the Tsar got a ruler and he said, I want the railway perfectly straight, like this. And he got the ruler and he drew a line like that, but his fingers were over the edge. And in a couple of places, it did a big sort of detour like that. He went, build me that, go away, yo, like that. And they went, oh, we better build it like you said. So they had to build two very big curves,
That's a lovely thought again.
That's a lovely thought.
I'd always assumed that the first railways that was...
All very well.
Let's get someone on the scene and go straight there now to see what's happening. It's absolute pandemonium,
Oh, you had your sweet yet?
I haven't had it yet.
Oh, I'm not very good at being a back controller.
The right place. Can't be a virgin training, can it?
Hey. Why, for a sweet and a point, why are they called navvies?
Navigational engineers.
Oh, very good, very good. I'm so impressed.
Is that right?
They were responsible for digging what were called the internal navigation system, which was the canals. That's how they first came over, for digging canals. And then when the railway arrived, they did all the embankments and the tunnels and the extraordinary earth movement involved. There were horses were used for taking away the spoil, but everything else was human muscle.
Elephants as well, did you realise?
No elephants were used in the making of that railway line.
There were, just little ones. So London to Birmingham, or Birmingham to London, was the equivalent of what, 1.5 pyramids?
1.5 Great Pyramids, supposedly.
If only we'd put that to a vote, we would have had 1.5 pyramids. Probably just a half a pyramid, we just thought we'd leave it.
We have the top half of the pyramid.
Well, that's a pyramid. That's a pyramid, the top half, isn't it? It's only if the bottom half...
That's what I would choose.
It's an odd platform. So just keep slicing your pyramids.
Don't have a clue. There you are.
Gentlemen.
Oh, no! Hang Thank you very much.
Curses. The credit may have gone to engineers, of course, like Stevenson and Brunel, but it was thousands and thousands of anonymous navvies who did the actual work. Now, here's a big question. What happened when the Americans went off the rails?
Jesus.
This is during the Carter administration when they tried to bring in a different form. Instead of rails, because Jimmy Carter was a Southern president.
Yes.
And in the Deep South, it was fried food. It's very, very popular. And they were hoping to build kind of carriages with holes in the bottom. People would sit, take the trousers down, and after eating a lot of fried food, they would fart it, and it would rise on a bed of noxious bottom gas. And then, behind, people would open balloons and let the air out. And if there were enough of the balloons, they were hoping... I mean, it never worked. It never stopped, obviously.
No. You would have heard of it.
A fool could have predicted it. Yeah. But they didn't have a fool in the...
For the first time in history.
Yeah.
Take the sweet off him.
Yeah, it is.
Is the question, when did America go off the rails?
No, when a locomotive went off the rails in America, what did they do?
They picked it up, put it back on?
Is the right answer. It's as simple as that. The point is, they deliberately made the locomotives very small and light. As you can see, they have no cladding, so they're as light as possible, and the passengers had to get out, pick it up, put it back on. They had the advantage of the potato blight, bringing over lots of Irishmen to be their navvies in America as well, at just the right time.
Stephen, they're navigational engineers.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah. I don't think we should call them navvies anymore.
You're right.
Now that we know the full title.
Then Mix were taken over to do the digging and did it brilliantly. And they tended to do it in the East Coast. And who did it in the West?
The Chinese.
The Chinese. And they met in the middle, the Irish and the Chinese, when they've completed the entire link across America. They could lay track, particularly from the West. There was a couple of brothers called Casement who devised this system, where the track was laid as fast as a man could walk. That's how quickly
Not as fast as Gromit.
No, that... He was probably inspired by the Casement brothers. They'd have a train on the existing track, or a sort of thing, and they would be exactly going ahead like that. And then they'd just simply push off the one when it had emptied itself of its rails and sleepers, and there would be one behind, and they would carry on. It was incredible.
I suspect that they're standing evenly apart for some kind of balance, because you would know. Why would you ever stand like that unless you were 5 individuals who happened to have bought single tickets? If you've gone along with 4 friends on a train, you might stand closer to one another, can't you, and chat.
The women folk perhaps are with them.
You may be right.
I think it's top hats off for that sort of thing.
Why didn't they build a railway at Slough?
A Slough?
Why not?
The town where I grew up?
Mm-hmm.
Is there no station in Slough?
Well, there is now, I suspect, is there?
Yes.
Yes, there is.
But there's no railway.
It's a start.
When the railway was being built through that particular part of Buckinghamshire, they were told they couldn't build a station at Slough. In fact, what happened was the train they would disregard it by stopping, and people would get on and off, and they would sell tickets in the pub. But who was it who said we won't have a station here? What school is nearby?
Oh.
Yes.
I do know it. It's Eton.
Eton College, of course, is there. And yes, they thought the boys would be tempted to go into London. There they are. Bless them.
And take drugs.
And, well, visit prostitutes and so on.
What the first thing they do? There's a train. Prostitutes! I'd like a prostitute super saver, please.
But this prostitute seems to be a woman.
Bloody hell, actually, that's seriously unfair. No. Come on, actually.
What am I meant to do with
really.
these?
Yeah, come on.
Oh, really?
No. There was a traveller's handbook that advised women should put pins in their mouth when trains went into a tunnel so men didn't kiss them. To protect themselves from unwanted kissing, they put a pin in their mouth.
It's very sweet, though, to think that kissing would be the first thing that men would...
out of the tunnel, the bloke's got a pin in his cock.
It's a very direct approach you've got to court. It is. I'll just pop this in her mouth. She'll come round, I'm sure, yeah.
Oh, my God. It's dark, she won't even know it's me.
Magnet! Anyone a magnet?
So there you are, yes, when 19th century American trains came off the rails, the passengers got out and lifted them back on. Now, what did Isambard Kingdom Brunel get for 18 birthdays in a row? For the first time ever, simultaneously, an elephant.
How annoyed would you be as well? You got me one of these last year. Did I? Yeah, look! How could you miss that?
Absolutely slaughtered, plastered.
That's
couldn't remember where he lived.
Socket set.
Did you get a copy of A Bridge Over Troubled Water?
No. Jane's Fighting Ships.
A book by Jeremy Clarkson.
If this book was a book, it'd be a book. There, that'll do, won't it?
A million sold?
Yeah.
What did he do? Let's think about what is Isambard Kingdom Brunel.
Engineering genius.
Tunnels was the first thing you said. Is it's concentrated.
Oh, Meccano.
No. Which is one of his the biggest tunnel
The box tunnel?
The box tunnel under Box Hill. You're absolutely right. 2 miles long. There it is.
Yeah.
Well, the opening of it, obviously. It's huge. It created so much earthworks, the making of it. It was the biggest tunnel in the world at the time he did it. That there are...
They built Wales with it.
Well, no. There were all these... There are vast holes down there that are linked by other tunnels. There are 80 miles of tunnels under there. Between 1935 and 1940, the military took over and they built this extraordinary system of underground, 30,000 square feet of office space with a lift and as an ammunition dump. And of course, a lot of people believe now that it's got an alien spaceship in it and all kinds of
Oh, yes,
nonsense.
it's a lot of local folklore. Because I grew up near...
Well, you'll know
in Bath, you see, very near the box
You grew
tunnel.
up in that tunnel?
In the tunnel, yes.
Explains a great deal.
As the creature of the tunnel. Dare ye go in the box tunnel?
Did they tell you anything about the way Brunel designed it? And a special effect that could be got from it once a year.
Does the light shine through it once a year? Do you want to know?
Yeah, go on, you can have your sweetie. Yes, on his birthday, which is the 9th of April, he was born in 1806. It was his
there it is.
bicentennial of his birth. There's the sun shining through. On his birthday, our QI field researchers wanted to stand there and check it, but they weren't allowed to by network. But that is one of the problems. Apparently, it is a straight tunnel, and the light will shine through it, but it's usually full of dust and smoke and various other things. So to explosions. Where's the best place to be when a nuclear bomb goes off? Extraordinary.
I would have gone for downtown Nagasaki. What are the chances of that happening again? You've got to play the odds.
There is a distance, and I'm not sure what that distance is. You have to be close enough to get some of the radiation, and if you're in the right spot, you will become a superhero. But, you know, experts are divided on what the distance is, and if you get it wrong...
Whoa.
Oh.
Yes.
Hang on. How about... Behind an elephant.
It's a thought. Well, when I say the best place, if you wanted to watch it, and
I know. You've got to have a little bit of card with a pinhole through it, and then you can be as close as you like.
Oh,
It actually can't hurt you.
Where did the most nuclear bombs go off in history?
South Pacific?
But there were quite a few in the Pacific, but actually on land there were 1,000 between the 1950s and early 60s.
In Nevada.
And in the early-ish 50s, when they were practicing their bomb techniques and setting one off just about once every 3 weeks, there was a town which was a no-good town at all in the early 50s. It was of no interest, except... Las Vegas. It's called itself the Up and Atom Town, and it advertises itself as a place to watch nuclear bombs going off. It's 65 miles away. They thought that was nice and safe. They would have poolside parties in the few hotels that were there.
So you're saying that lights of Vegas have got nothing to do with lights? They're just, it's just an afterglow of people going, oh, I don't feel well.
Well, over 10,000 people, known as downwinders, have claimed, and successfully claimed at that, $500 million from the US government for the effects of it. The Japanese Emperor Hirohito made a radio announcement after Hiroshima, which may be one of the great understatements of all time. He said, "The war has developed not necessarily to our advantage."
Traffic and travel next.
Not that much travel.
No. Fortunately, the American search for amusing new bombs to entertain the public never ceases. How does the love bomb work?
I turn up and I get on with it. Is a love bomb a bottom noise that can be made whilst you're making love? You know that sometimes you're enjoying something lovely.
Success.
And then all of a sudden, you know it's a bit awkward and you pretend you haven't heard it.
Rob, can I remind you of something?
I like the fact
Your father is in the audience. Just sort of remind you.
He's up there going, that's my boy. You're putting Wales on the map, Robert.
This kind of sophisticated humour, you're quite right. So,
lets off something that makes everyone feel loved up. It's like a big ecstasy bomb.
Yeah, you're sort of right. In 1994, the Americans worked on the idea of a bomb that would contain an aphrodisiac. I quote of the plan here, it was declassified 2 years ago. "One distasteful but completely non-lethal example would be strong aphrodisiacs, especially if the chemical also caused homosexual behaviour."
Oh,
the idea was to make the troops...
Is that the best example we could find?
Hang on, what have you been putting in my tea then?
The idea was that they would all start loving each other up instead of fighting. Now, what could you make with an ultrasound rectal probe, a light-emitting tube, bicycle helmets, protective clothing, a huge tub of Vaseline, and a wheelbarrow?
Oh. That could make you the happiest man alive.
Oh. Elephant in the room. Yes. Is this something to do with a medical examination of an elephant?
You get the point.
It's what you do. It's how you test pregnancy in elephants.
No, it's how you make pregnancy.
So that's what I meant, yes. How you make elephants pregnant.
Artificial insemination of elephants.
That's it, yes.
You need the safety helmet, for safety reasons, as you can imagine. You need the bucket, or wheelbarrow in this case, to collect the elephant droppings, because you need to give an elephant an enema first.
Oh, you're making an elephant porn film, are you?
And you do need hours of preparation for this. A couple of Germans, surprisingly, are the experts in this. Doctors Thomas Hildebrandt and Frank Göritz.
Oh, there's the doctor now.
They've made 12 baby elephants this way.
You know when you say hours of preparation, do you mean getting her in the mood? Well, do you take her out to dinner? Do you compliment her?
You only have to compliment her once because she never forgets.
An ultrasound probe into the elephant's rectum while feeding a light-emitting tube into what is rather pleasingly called her vestibule.
Into the rectum?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's not how it's done.
No, but you have to do that first. You have to do... It's all...
You have to do that first. That's what I've been telling her.
Listen. Oh, no.
Finally, she'll pay attention now.
Why not just get a big boy elephant?
Well, in the circumstances in which that is impossible. Artificial insemination with other animals happens, obviously, and it's with elephants, it's occasionally...
Getting animals to mate in captivity is very difficult, especially with each other.
Yes.
Exactly right. Anyway, all those exciting objects, with luck, could make you a baby elephant, and they are the tools used by artificial inseminators. So the wheel turns full circle, gentlemen, and plunges us back into the oily sump
What?
Of general ignorance. So, fingers on buzzers, please. Where are you most likely to get bitten by a vampire?
A 19th century novel.
Pinewood Studios.
Very good. Good answer.
Outside your own house.
Where on the body?
Well, it would have to be some sort of protrusion where blood gathers and is easily accessible through the bedclothes, probably the elbow.
What about in a dark tunnel?
No, but it is a protuberance, as Jimmy pointed out. Big toe.
Big toe?
Big toe is the most likely place. There are a number of misconceptions about vampire bats, obviously, but I mean, we're talking about real vampire.
Well, who does your picture?
Aren't they pretty?
Oh, he's a nasty looking one, isn't
That
he?
is a really ugly
That
animal.
Gary Oldman is a hell of an actor. It's like he really transforms, doesn't he?
It's
amongst
Yoda,
vampire bats, is he regarded as a bit of a looker?
if Yoda had accepted the dark side, that's how he would have looked.
Yeah.
But
that's a very suave-looking bat. Hello.
Would you mind awfully if I nipped you on the toe?
Well, I'm having a few friends over. Would you like a cure?
What do they do? How do they ingest their blood? I mean, what do they do?
They bite and sniff it up, swallow it, lick it, slurp it, hide it, store it, draw it
Who
off
do
into
you think
decant
you are?
it. Decant it.
Laid down for a couple of years.
With the syringe. I mean, they're quite hygienic animals. Small bit of cotton wool, syringe, and then you get a cup of tea and a biscuit. That's how you know you've been bitten.
And a little tiny little plaster.
They do. You're quite right in one sense. They do an anticoagulant and a painkiller, so you're unlikely to know you've been bitten. What they do is they open the skin and the vein, and then they lap at it like a cat. Like that.
I don't want to alarm anyone, but I think a love bomb may have gone off.
Stephen doesn't need a love bomb to behave like that, you know.
Is it getting hot in here?
Yes, the most likely place to get bitten by a vampire is in the big toe. And finally, what's the biggest load of rubbish in the world?
Oh.
France.
We got France!
There's a lovely picture of France there. See it there?
I think you can
This
have a
show is
sweet-
sponsored by the British Tourist Board. Don't leave, it's horrible over there.
Yes. Somewhere in America, probably.
Oh, hang on. There was a thing in the QI book about the biggest load of rubbish in the world. The biggest man-made thing, and it was a rubbish dump in New York.
Fresh kills.
What?
No. What? That is one of the that is the largest.
Thanks for taking that bullet, Bill. Lord knows I appreciate that. I'll set them up, you knock them over.
I don't know many rubbish dumps, funnily enough. I mean, this Wandsworth tip.
I don't know the biggest one. There's a very good one there's a very good one for the Richmond area where you can they have separate stuff for plastics and cardboard and textiles.
Yeah, that's the one in Wandsworth.
No. I did clearly say Richmond.
No, but you can do all that in Wandsworth as well. You don't have to go to Richmond.
Richmond.
All right.
What was the original question?
Well, the fact is, as you say, that is a very big pile of rubbish. It's the biggest man-made structure in the world. But actually, we're in the Pacific. We're in the Northern Pacific Gyre. It's an area where...
Oh, it really takes you there.
It does. Come with me into the swirling vortex that is the Northern Pacific Gyre.
That's not a photo, is it?
No, that's not. It's all of the currents swirl, everything tends towards making this huge maelstrom.
They grab all the driftwood and all.
And in the old days, all the rubbish would go there, but it would be broken down by microorganisms. But today, since the invention of plastic doesn't biodegrade, as you probably know. It photodegrades, but doesn't biodegrade, so it lasts for a very, very long time. And it's all in an area the size of Texas. I mean,
Texas?
it is colossal. And for every pound of plankton, there are 6 pounds.
And is it just on the surface, or where is it?
It's on the surface. It gets eaten by the poor animals. You know, you can find jellyfish with bits of brightly coloured plastic inside.
You think that's remarkable? At the Richmond tip, there's a section. There's a section for fluorescent tubes.
We've got that in Wandsworth, haven't we got one? And we've got one that's for fridges and...
We've got fridges?
Yeah, fridges, tellies, computers, everything you want. Keyboards, things you don't need
Whereabouts
anymore.
is it? I want to check it out.
Now,
not telling.
We can decide all this later because the fact is, yes, the biggest collection of rubbish in the world is floating in the North Pacific Gyre, otherwise known as the Pacific Trash Vortex. Kind of grunge band, isn't it? Speaking of rubbish, it's time for the scores. And first out of the tunnel with a full 11 points is Rob Brydon. Mirabile dictu in second place, perhaps for the first time ever, with +4 points, Alan Davies. Great achievement. And in third place with -2, it's Jimmy Carr. It means that trailing behind him, one of those funny little up and down things that you take along on a railway line, with -18 points, Will Bailey! So that's all from Jimmy, Rob, Bill, Alan and me, but here's one last question for you at home. How do you know that God is a civil engineer? Because when he designed the human body, he put the recreation area right next to the sewage outflow. Good night.